Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, Papa Pacelli, along with Netter of Netter's Network.
Good evening.
Boy, oh boy, you sound scripted, is what you sound.
No,
You also sound like you're kind of picking on me because you said good afternoon. Is that your way of
oh,
jabbing at me for always saying uh, uh, what I'm talking about this evening when I'm on liquid lunch?
funny man. No, I just made a mistake. I've been off today. I know I did that because I figured I might as well start sounding like AI since everything's going to be AI soon, right? Might as well just pretend to be a computer
Dude,
now.
don't even joke about that. The program that I use for voiceover work and stuff like that, I could actually record my own voice and use it as a voice to generate scripts and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. I do know people that very vehemently do not want to use any AI, but have resorted to using it for just because of errors or stuff in something they've recorded, and it's a quick way to get something fixed rather than going through all the effort of Audacity and re-recording something and getting the volumes right and stuff like that.
Comments. We got some comments. Ruby Hoove
Yes,
gifted
thank you
a
so much,
and she
Ruby Hooves.
gifted it to a friend of ours. She has
A
her own
friend of
channel,
the
Janet.
channel, Janet
Janet,
from another planet.
be sure
She
to
is a
subscribe to Janet from Another Planet. Yes.
she has a great, especially if you she does a lot of movie commentaries. She's also got mostly off platform because there's so much you can't do on YouTube. She's got some great political commentary. She's
Oh,
a
cool.
wonderful supporter over on the social medias. And speaking of this platform and the support of people like Ruby Hoove growing our community the way she does single-handedly, guys, I tell you guys all the time how much your support means. Let's put it this way. Um, if you guys tuned in on Friday and enjoyed that stream, I'm glad you did. If you go back and watch it now, I highly recommend you just kind of go down to the description of Last Call from last Friday and click on the link over to the Green Machine where you can see the entire stream in its entirety, because what's left on YouTube is so chopped up and so Frankensteined because of the draconian use or misuse, I should say, of copyright by this current platform. You want to make sure that you and I think going forward, this is what I'm probably going to end up having to do is putting a link to the
It's probably the only
Rumble
way.
version
Yeah.
of a video, and just telling people, if you want to see the full version, make sure you go over to Rumble and maybe subscribe to me over there, because that's kind of what you have to do. But yeah, I had to spend all weekend editing Friday's video just to get it so that it would free up the funds that you were kind enough to super chat to me and offer me, and so that it doesn't go to a bunch of copyright trolls.
At any rate, we had a wonderful guest on Friday, though. Be sure to also check out his channel, right?
Yeah, Stark of Iron.
Mhm.
I didn't. He keeps things lighthearted. I didn't want to get too slovenly, fanboyish about him. But he really is somebody who is having a great deal of impact on my channel just by setting an example and doing things that he does. Saying, yeah, this is a good idea and this is why. So that's why middle of the show, I did a promo reel. Then he asked me to send those promos to him so that he could play them on his show on Saturday to promote the different shows that we do. And I think going forward, not only am I going, and I think you guys know I had started doing promos for our own different streams. And I kind of got away from it. I'm not only going to be getting back to it, but I am going to start doing promos for other channels and sending those out to Tony to do on his channel and so forth. So together we grow, folks.
Together we grow. Hello, Connie Cleary. Welcome to the chat. And hold on, let me find out who else is here. We have Curtis Selby. Welcome.
Absolutely, says howdy.
Netter's Network, welcome. Rosefire, welcome. Almost went to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh.
At the other events, and chose to start season 2 of Hercules' Legendary Journeys. I saw that in the theater the year that came out. That was the summer of '89. We'll have to do summer.
Right.
Like
Real quick, I want to bring up her other comment. Thought I'd drop in for a little while tonight, but I'm in a dark place right now, going through rough times.
Sorry to hear that.
Personally and communally, so could use some good vibes and blessings ahead. Absolutely. Rosefire, I'll make sure that Netter, includes you in her prayers. She's got the in with the big cat at the top of the stairs. So.
And we'll be talking about good vibrations very shortly. Actually, no joke aside, that our good old days tonight may actually be apropos to maybe helping you a little bit.
Knows where we'd be without Brian Wilson.
Yes, and definitely. Who else have I missed here?
Let me help you get back on track.
Thank you. Sorry.
Gotta say, salute, of course, to Deleted Scenes, who when this stream is over, stay with us to the end of the stream and don't go anywhere. We will be forwarding you over to his late night show, Reserved Seats, where he will be interviewing another good friend of the channel, Big Al. Big Al Presents.
I know that guy.
We also have to say hi to Aged Boomer. We know that guy as well.
He's drinking an orange juice right now.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Freshly squeezed? You're in Florida. It should be free.
It's from the bottle, but it says it's organic on the bottle.
Well, for whatever that means.
Okay, let's not get on a screen.
It can be organic too,
You're thinking in the orange juice factory they have both bottles up to the same machine, and one bottle says organic and the other says regular, and they don't know the difference, right?
Probably true. Probably true. Okay. David Pensack, welcome. Good to see you. Of course, right here in the studio with us is Netter of Netter's Network, who calls me the love of her life, when in fact she is the love of mine. Welcome.
Welcome, Netter.
Daniel Berry's Sports Highlight. Happy Father's Day. Is that today?
That is today. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all you people that actually have fathers you have a relationship with.
Yes.
Let's see. Let me catch up here. In fact, there he is right now. Big Al of Big Al Presents. Hello, geezers. Have a great show. Better stay awake, Al. Don't take a nap, because otherwise you'll miss your show.
Isn't it evening? Yes, it's evening, D. Pensack. I don't know, man. I was even thinking, I'm gonna take a nap.
Yeah, let's not beat up Boomer. I thought
just beat me up. It's fine.
I thought he was giving me grief. That's the only reason I even brought it up.
Point is that I don't know. This has been a weird week. Yes. I had to, of course, I had to be very careful. I had to get I'm going for my physical in a week, so I had to get all my blood tests. So I was making sure I was being careful early week. Last night there was a horrible, horrible thunderstorm in the middle of the night. I mean, the kind of thunderstorm where the lightning cracks and it wakes you up. Like it might have been right outside the house.
I mean, Deleted Scenes was talking about that. True. He had lightning strike like 8 feet away from him. So
yeah, it was close because
I know that's scary.
You can tell when it's close because you hear the rumble right with the crack. All I know is whatever it was close. Luckily,
I didn't mention it when he shared, but I'll tell you, there was a time I was out in Ohio. My uncle owned a marina out there, and sometimes, during the summer, a summer rain is wonderful, and even a thunderstorm is really, really a good feeling. Kind of feeling that cool breeze of very moist air coming off lake, really nice. All of a sudden, the lightning struck. It hit somewhere in the lake, less than 100 feet away from me. And that feeling of the prickle on the back of your neck, like someone punched you in the chest and you just kind of out, and that tingle down your leg. Well, the tingle down my leg was because I peed myself, but that's entirely different. Yeah, it's a freaky thing.
Yikes,
welcome,
man.
Tim, FKHC 2005. Also, Nothing to See Here, Citizen, the other channel for Curtis Selby. Please make sure
I like that title.
Subscribed to pardon me?
I like that title for the channel.
Absolutely. Nothing to see here, Citizen. His new channel that we need to get up and running so we can get him monetized. Ztopia, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Chester D. Molester. Popcorn, Indiana here. There you go. So did you go see Indiana Jones? Just curious if that's what you're getting at.
Who, Rosefire?
Yeah,
Oh, me?
No, Chester. He said Popcorn, Indiana here. So just wondering if
it got a Fathom Events re-release.
Yeah, that's
I
what,
need to do more of those. But yeah, it was a I'm big fan of that movie back in the day when it came out. I know people consider it the lesser of the three, but I still enjoy it. You know.
Yeah,
It had Sean Connery in it. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. It was a great movie. The problem is I kind of side with Michael over at Retro Blasting, who's like, the big problem there is that it pretty much puts a cap on what you could do with Indiana Jones. There's a reason that everything after that has just been going downhill, and that's because it puts it on a downward trajectory. It was called The Last Crusade. It should have been the last movie. It establishes a timeline that ages the character and makes it almost impossible to continue doing the pulp stories that they intended with Indiana Jones. That's why you end up getting, the marriage and kid, and kid dies in Vietnam, and break up their marriage.
None of this
story,
nonsense. Gene Siskel gave Last Crusade thumbs down, which I was surprised at. And you know what his reason was?
Why?
He said, "I've seen this movie before. You already had a movie with Indiana Jones fighting a certain enemy, the Germans before World War II, and also with looking for a holy relic." He says this is like the same thing. And I thought that was too harsh, but yeah,
he's not wrong there. The first two movies establish a better baseline because you have yes.
He liked Temple of Doom, but Temple of Doom was different enough from Raiders that's probably why he liked it. Yeah.
It is the same formula in that it is Indiana Jones going to find a different relic, but it's not the same genre.
It's not a biblical relic.
It's same enemies and the same. A lot of people were saying there was a lot of stories that they've done with Indiana Jones in extraneous media that would have made perfectly good movies. The Secret of Atlantis and a whole bunch of other ones.
Bunch of comic books they wrote. I mean, you could have tried adapting some of those. Listen to me. Possibilities were endless of what they could have done. In fact, to be fair, with the new one, the Dial of Destiny, I heard the stuff on the train. I haven't seen the movie because I don't want to watch it, but I heard a lot of the stuff on the train was interesting. Like, couldn't they have just made a movie about him on the train?
Yeah.
Getting and that you probably could have gotten that to a feature length at least. Maybe do a little preamble in the beginning and then have him get to the train, and that could have been the movie. But instead, they never mind.
Well, that's the other thing too. That if you're going to do a serial, that's the way to do it. You don't tell the whole movie or the whole story in one movie.
Well,
you do it in a series of smaller movies. Anyway,
that would have been interesting. But who cares? Who cares, right?
What we do care about is what Jonathan Conroy's saying here. Smash that like button and enjoy the show. Absolutely. Rosefire says that she had ChatGPT create a trailer script and tagline for an original fantasy story idea. I found it fun to work with, but I'll admit it can't create a full hero's journey. No, it can't. That's why a lot of people that and it's it's just like everything else. Before you jump on people, kind of pay attention to what they're actually doing with this stuff. If you use ChatGPT just to give you a little idea or whatever, or get you started or something, and go, this is great, but this goes too computer stupid. Let me take this and run with it. That's perfectly fine, because kind of where do you get your ideas from? Do you get them from other people having done other stories, from things you saw in your childhood? Are we going to jump on those people and say, well, you're a thief, you can't come up with anything original? There's nothing original under the sun. Get out of here already.
By go out into the real world and have some fresh experiences. That's another thing.
Guys,
You
I
know?
appreciate seeing you guys encouraging Rosefire here in the
Yeah.
chat. You guys are this is what I love to see more than anything else. You guys are wonderful.
It's funny. Rosefire is going back and watching Hercules. I was actually checking out every so often. I pick out a random TNG episode to watch. Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's not our good old days tonight. But I was watching. I watched Deja Q and Q Who. I watched I watched the one where they were getting abducted. Remember?
Yes.
That was a decent episode. That was a creepy episode that we didn't really get follow through on.
I can't really remember that one. Yeah, it was a great take on the whole concept of alien abduction,
but doing it in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah. And in fact, it's interesting. A lot of those stories that have great unresolved plots, like who were those aliens, what were they all about, and this and that. Star Trek Online has actually taken those stories and developed them a little bit. That those aliens were, they called them the Yalaki, and I don't want to get too much off on a tangent.
They were creepy is what they were.
Their storyline ties into some of the other storylines, like the Iconians and all sorts of things. So anyway, I don't want to get too much.
They weren't even from our universe. They were from another universe, and they were poking in, and they were kidnapping members of the crew and experimenting on them.
Yes, exactly.
They weren't reaching out and saying hi. They were, apparently they severed Riker's arm and reattached it, right? I mean,
yes, and they only noticed it because of the micro fracture in the bone. It wasn't perfectly set.
They messed with Geordi, they messed with Worf, and they messed with some other member. I don't know if she was like Starfleet. Maybe she was a school teacher on the ship or something. Yeah, she had also been messed with. Yes, it was just, yeah.
Robert's Infinite Realm says, "What's up, Geeky Geezers?" Dang, I guess that includes me as well. Yeah, probably. We're all a bunch of geezers, aren't we?
Well, we're all feeling older now, and let's be.
Tim says he's got his annual blood work next Thursday. I just went for my annual blood work, and the doctor has already scheduled me for a call-in to talk about it. I don't like that at all.
Well, considering that the call is happening in like 2 weeks.
She figures I'm probably not going to die in the next 2 weeks, so it can't be all that bad. Is that what you're saying?
And can somebody give me a check? Do I sound loud enough? Because
yeah, we need a sound.
Sound fine.
Folks. Thanks so much.
She sounds fine.
Jesse,
of course
Green.
Hello,
how would
I know?
Green. Storyman Jack, welcome.
Yeah.
Rosefire prefers smaller government, big success. Enjoys good food, fine alcohol, pretty ladies. I just realized Pacelli is Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Very funny.
Thank you.
Do you like breakfast bars with eggs and bacon and all that?
Okay. I do like a good breakfast, but I don't like going out to restaurants or anything. Okay. I like making it myself. But so I don't really know who Ron Swanson is. Well, I don't watch Parks and Regulations, but based on that description, Rosefire, I'll take it.
I'll say this, though. If you're stuck having to go to a restaurant, it's hard to mess up breakfast.
Yeah. I agree.
And now they have chicken apple sausage, too, in a lot of chains, which I didn't realize had actual apples in it. Because I think someone in the chat, maybe it was Connie the other night, was mentioning how she was sensitive to pork.
Hold on a second. I'm being told that my volume is low, which probably means...
If you want, I can mute myself and listen to it on the YouTube and see.
No, that's okay. I'm sure everybody will give me their opinions, and it'll all be different from every corner. So I'm at 90% on my system sound. The sound in the studio... I've only got background noise reduction. I've got it. Yeah, I don't even have it. The studio even touching my sound.
All right.
Let's get everyone else that we can. Let me know what you're.
Let him know if he's too low. Low to me, says Darth Plato. Interesting. Well,
here's the other thing.
Am I high though? That's another possibility.
Well, you sound fine.
Well, I was just gonna say. It boggles my mind when someone says I'm low, because I have such a boisterous voice. All my life, between my mother and my wife, I've been getting, "You are too loud. Keep it down. You your voice is grating. So, you know, when someone tells me my voice is low, I'm like, seriously? Really?
Yeah. Well, for the microphone, hearing myself in my own ear, I sound low. That's why I was asking if I sound that way to the chat.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Well,
Darth Plato says, "Boomer groan this early in." Yeah, well, it's been one of
like
those
a Maria
days.
snort?
Yeah, well, there you go. Ebert used to say a movie
Boomer.
is not what it is about; it's how it does it. Well, that's not wrong, actually. I think Last Crusade stands alongside Raiders. Fair enough.
I have
Fair
a
enough.
solution. I can talk softer. Maybe that'll
There
work.
you go.
Anyway,
You
we should
sound
probably get
fine.
into what we always talk. Deleted scenes thinks you sound fine, so I don't know. We'll just roll with it and see what happens.
Let me very quick zip through because I don't want to miss anyone. Like regular contributor to the channel, Geek Flag with Nate knows.
Mm-hmm.
Boomer is fine, but Troy is kind of low. Sorry, man. I have limited ability to change my volume. You guys are going to have to just up it on your side. Boomer is a little high, but that's fine. And I think that gets us. You're geez, and it just jumped. All right, let's just get into it because otherwise we're never going to get this show.
I'll try to
off the
talk
ground.
softly. Anyway, Troy's like he's talking through a wooden board. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll find out as the stream goes on.
Look,
We'll check it after the
I'm
stream.
going to do exactly what I did last time. I'm going to fucking crank it, and if it's too loud, then just put your volume down because there's only so much that I can do.
Yeah, that's fine. Anyway, we are going to talk about the good old days tonight, and we'll get into that in a minute. And unfortunately, it.
Sorry. Yep. Let's go ahead and get. Oh, you didn't. Did you send me the what do you call it? I got to put that up.
Yeah.
The presentation.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
It's okay.
Oh,
I'll
crap.
entertain the chat while you get it. It should be.
You entertain. Yeah.
If it's not there, let me know. Talk softly and carry a big shot glass.
Nice.
Anyone excited for that new Superman trailer, huh? I don't know. Get your tickets now. Film for IMAX.
Well, you know, if anyone is interested in getting that rocks glass that I gifted to Troy on Friday.
Yeah, we'll do an official launch, but now I guess I have a merch store that I didn't know about previously.
Yeah, there's not a lot in it right now. There's like some shirts, a couple of different types of glasses, like to-go containers. There's a stemless wine glass with my logo on it. But Troy also has a new logo because it was Friday Night Last Call, and now it's just Last Call. But I didn't have the new logo. I set this up to surprise him, so he's got one that says Friday Night Last Call on it.
That's nice. That is nice.
You want to bring up the presentation?
It takes time to upload, so you're going to have to continue.
Man?
You know, computers, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's just the way it goes.
D-Pensix says your level now sounds like it's matching Boomer's.
Well, like I said, I had to crank it literally to the top.
We're going to roll with it and see how it's. We'll do a post-op after the stream, but let's get this party started. And I don't know, man. Did I tell you?
No, what were you going to say?
I didn't tell you last Sunday that I gone to breakfast. And guess what I
had
for breakfast last Sunday?
What'd you have last Sunday?
A Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity?
The Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity Doug Flutie Betsy Boopsy breakfast.
No, I've been to IHOP in a while because they closed the one in the city we usually go to breakfast, and there's another one around that we can go to. But I went to Bob Evans, got myself the biscuits and gravy, a couple sunny side up eggs, and some bacon and some hash browns.
Okay, all that other stuff sounds really, really good, but I mean, ew. That's just
the Brits, man. The Brits were very taken aback in that one stream I was watching about what is this biscuits and gravy that you Americans speak of.
Well, and you know, I do have to say, honestly,
it's called SOS.
Yeah, it is. It is like shit out of
shingle.
Exactly. There it is. Because one thing that I hate is that it defaults to a method, very slow method. It looks really weird when you change between the slides, but now it should be fixed and you should be ready to go.
Should be nice and
Boomer.
smooth. Welcome to
there you
Geeky
go.
Geezers. Let's get this party started. Okay, we have, and we normally start out talking about the good old days.
The good old days.
Talk about the Beach Boys.
Absolutely. This, yeah, and Boomer's like, do you know a good deal about that? Yes, I know a great deal about the Beach Boys. So the band started in 61. This was what you call a real family group here. It was Brian Carl and Dennis Wilson, managed by their father, Murray. It included their cousin, Michael Love, and a good friend of theirs, Al Jardine. That was the original. Look at those kids. I mean, how young. Oh, my gosh, it's crazy.
Yep.
It basically formed around Brian's songwriting and, like I said, managed by their father. The first hit was in 1963 with Surfin' USA. Now, that wasn't the first song they did, but it was the first, big hit that they had. And that just began a string of top 10 singles with what was described at the time as a uniquely California sound. Focused on surfing and cars and California teen life at the time. Other hits in the 60s included Surfin' Safari, Surfer Girl, Little Deuce Coupe. I got a little story about Little Deuce Coupe. So when I was in high school, and I know that, high school in my day was very different than high school for some of you younger folks. It was definitely a transitional time in high school where prior to my day, it was always, you had two paths in high school. You either went trades or you went college prep. And now they've pushed the trades out and it's all college prep because they want you all to go to college, whether you're going to do anything with that college education or not, apparently. But I kind of went middle of the road. I took a lot of shop classes. I also took a lot of college prep classes. And one of the classes I took was, of course, auto mechanic. And our teacher, Mr. McGuire was his name. He was real into, well, he called himself an original gearhead. And he would do these little projects where he'd bring in, a 50s, 60s formula song, and he'd play it. And we were supposed to sit and write down all the gearhead terms and explain what they were. And one of them was Little Deuce Coupe. And, yeah, I remember.
Know what I mean, yes.
And it's like that one I had actually, a lot of the songs that he brought up I had an advantage on because everyone was like, wait, can you play that again? Nope, you get it once. Well, I had all of these songs already in my head. Hell, I was actually writing down, lyrics before he'd even gotten to them because I knew exactly what was coming. So yeah, I had the advantage there. But anyway, so I'm going back to my notes here on the Beach Boys. Get back on topic, for crying out loud. The thing is that I really have to limit myself because we could get off on a whole tangent about the influences of the Beach Boys. There was just like I think in like the late 80s, early 90s, there was all this talk about a rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast rap groups. Well, it was the same kind of thing with the Beach Boys. There was an East Coast, West Coast kind of thing where you had this more, like, I don't know, Greasers kind of style.
Like the four feathers or the four seasons? Was that
well, a little bit. But you had this very doo-woppy kind of 50s style. From the New York bands. Yeah. And then you had this California sunshine thing in the West. And that really did impact music going from the 50s into the 60s. But then you also throw into that mix, you have the British invasion, Beatles. Which the Beatles, absolutely. And there was, I don't want to say there was a rivalry, but there was a tension between the musical styles that, because honestly, I think the audience saw it as a rivalry, whereas the bands were influenced by each other.
Yes.
I feel like I think all these bands that people try to say had rivalries going really had a mutual respect thing going on. They were kind of fans of each other. So I think that
Paul
the Beach
McCartney
Boys
was listening to the Who to get some influence for.
There's all kinds of again. We could go off on whole tangents about this, but and in fact, I mean, one of the greatest. Well, and again, this kind of goes back to one of our in memoriams when we were talking about how the Beatles and the Monkees, right? You know, the Monkees were really just always picked on and derided as the prefab four, and like they just didn't get the respect, and it really seemed like those guys felt like they were in the Beatles, like shadow, and I guess they were at a concert together.
Yeah. And
they had some interaction, and one of the Beatles said to him, "Man, you guys are great." And they're like, "Please, we're, I don't remember." They said something very, derogatory about themselves, and they're like, "Guys, you guys are wonderful. Whatever they're saying about you, don't buy it. You're doing good stuff out there."
There was a made-for-TV movie about the Monkees, and I think they showed him. I don't know if one of them was talking to Ringo Starr, or was it John Lennon? And they were saying, "Yeah, you're the real you're the real band." And they were saying, "What are you talking about? You're the funniest guy since the Marx Brothers." Because they
that's the other thing too. They appreciated everything that came with it. It's like the music is great, but you have something more than that. See, in a way, the Beatles were kind of trying to do a little bit of what they saw the Monkees doing when they did their what was that movie that they did?
The Yellow Submarine?
Yeah, exactly. And some of the other stuff that they did, they never really broke out into that. They never got out of their music.
Sense about them too on some level. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And on the other side, the Monkees were trying to get into more of the music, and they were having a hard time because everyone was focused on the show. And there's nothing wrong with either one of those formulas, and I think that's what the guys over at the Beatles were telling the Monkees. But anyway, you do see the same kind of transition. You see you see Brian Wilson start to be very influenced by the Beatles, all the psychedelic and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you start getting into pet sounds and so forth. Unfortunately, what you also get into is they went from their what do you call it, the teeny bopper, Bobby Soxer type of happy, charmy, goody teens of America in the 50s and 60s, and you start getting into the counterculture, maybe imbibing some substances type of thing, and that had some very, very serious impacts on several members of the band over the rest of their life, if we're going to be honest about it. So.
It's funny. Darth Vader says, "I know a guy who saw the Beatles in Philly. It was such a screaming convention that you could hardly hear any music." That's fun. That's interesting because all the women would scream over the Beatles, right?
Exactly.
Over the Beach Boys as well. But I was at a Billy Idol concert recently, so that was an interesting experience. But I remember the Monkees on TV. Yeah, I do too. I did want to say though. That people consider Pet Sounds though to be brilliant now. It's considered a brilliant album now, but maybe not so much back in the day, right?
True. You know what? Before I get into that, though, I do want to back up again one more time to 1963. Again, early in their career, they had a Christmas album. That I think not enough people really realize how impactful that song had. A lot of singles in there, not a lot of a lot of covers in there, not a lot of original tunes, but there and we could almost, maybe we'll save this for when we get to December. A lot of groups used to do Christmas albums that their versions of certain standards, or what people thought of as standards, became the iconic versions for people going forward. So that's why when you hear some of these songs on the radio and people go, "Oh, Perry Como did that better. No, I like the Elvis version of that. No, I like the the Beach Boys have a number of songs, and I don't think enough people think about how Christmas albums directly impacted people's memory of the various bands and so forth.
Okay.
But anyway, so yes, Pet Sounds, in case that album came out in '66, and man, what a list of songs that was. It's got a Pet Sounds has a what do you call it? A Wikipedia page that is longer than the entire write-up for the band itself. It's absolutely amazing. I could just do a whole chat just on that. The cultural impact and influence. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I don't know if you had more you wanted to say, but I did want to talk about. There was a movie a few years ago.
I did not see it. You know more about that one than I do, I think.
This goes. This is. Well, here. Let's go ahead and see if I can show. You have two actors playing Brian Wilson, right? You have Paul Dano as the young Brian Wilson, and I want to say that might have been. Is that an actual picture of Brian? That might just be Paul Dano. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to tell who's Paul Dano.
Because he did a really good job. He really did look like him.
He looks like him, yeah. And they do the flashbacks when he's young. John Cusack plays the older Brian Wilson in the 70s, and where he meets the woman that would eventually become his second wife. And I almost want to say this is a true love story, and it's almost like. I want to say it's almost like a fairy tale in reverse, whereas, usually it's the handsome prince or knight rescuing the beautiful princess, whereas this is the woman rescuing the man. That's what it's about. He had a therapist he was under the therapist's thumb. Therapist was prescribing all kinds of, kind of keeping him in a stupor. And then one day when he's going to buy a car, he meets this lady who was one of the car agents, and he kind of falls for her, and she kind of brings him out. And while you're watching the movie, you're thinking, maybe did he have a psychotic break? He's on all these things. No, he was just.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking to Netter.
Okay, and no, he was just being kept this way, so to be under the control of evil Paul Giamatti here.
Yeah, evil Paul Giamatti.
I haven't seen Straight Outta Compton. He's in that apparently also, and he's like an evil music manager in that. I believe it's like he's getting
all music managers are evil.
Yeah, and he's sort of like almost has a dual role in that as well, like the same type of character. And no, I mean it's a wonderful biopic. I do highly recommend you watch it, and it kind of goes back and forth between the older and the younger Brian Wilson. Paul Dano though is excellent as the young Brian Wilson, and that's Elizabeth Banks. And actually, I'll show a picture here. This is them, see? And there's the real Brian Wilson in the middle, see?
There you go.
But, I know if you haven't seen Love and Mercy, I recommend it. You need to look into this movie.
I'll have to double check it. Yeah. This, and that really does kind of take us up through the 69. If we keep going farther with this, we're going to start coming down the other side of that mountain there, because we start looking at, some waning popularity. Brian starting to have some real problems in his life, pulling out of the band. We could even get into a resurgence later on.
Right there, right?
Well, yeah, I was going to say even more excuse me. I was going to say even more recently in like the 90s, we started getting into they did the Beach Boys did a song for a movie with Tom Cruise. The name of the song was Kokomo. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
And there was, and they started touring again. Started touring with, of all people, John Stamos. He became like an honorary member of the band, playing drums with them.
Oh, wow. And they were on Full House.
Yes, they were. And it was,
yes.
It was, there was, for the kids at the time, it was a misunderstanding. They thought, because they showed up on the show, that's how they became friends, and it was more than that. The relationship began before that. That's what led to them being on the show. He was already involved with them. In fact, if you watch the video for Kokomo, you do see John Stamos on the drums in that video. And he's been involved with the band ever since, going on tour with them and so
very
forth.
Cool.
So, and we'll probably end up talking a little bit more about that as we get into the show as well.
All right. So, unfortunately, this is probably going to lead us to our first story of the night, though.
Absolutely.
Which is, we don't lie when we say we're losing the greats. We really are losing the greats. And he's a music legend, let's be honest here.
True.
Even though I don't consider myself a Beach Boys expert by any means, I know their songs because I grew up with
their
songs.
I don't think anyone... Yeah. I think everybody pretty much knows their music. Yeah. They are so ubiquitous in pop culture. Their music has been used in like commercials, definitely in soundtracks and TV shows and whatnot, especially every time they want to somehow infuse that kind of 60s surfing kind of flair to it. They just go to the Beach Boys.
Yeah. Brian Wilson, in memoriam, age 82. Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys visionary and fragile leader whose genius for melody arrangements and wide-eyed self-expression inspired Good Vibrations, California Girls, and other summertime anthems and made him one of the world's most influential recording artists, has died at age 82. Wilson's family posted news of his death to his website and social media accounts Wednesday. Further details weren't immediately available. Since May 2024, Wilson has been under a court conservatorship to oversee his personal and medical affairs, with Wilson's longtime representatives, publicist Gene Sivers and manager Lee Ann Hard in charge. The eldest and last surviving of three musical brothers, Brian played bass, Carl lead guitar, and Dennis drums. He and his fellow Beach Boys rose in the 1960s from local California band to national hit makers to international ambassadors of surf and sun. Wilson himself was celebrated for his gifts and pitied for his demons. He was one of rock's great romantics, a tormented man who in his peak years embarked on an ever steeper path to oral perfection, the one true sound. Beach Boys rank among the most popular groups of the rock era, with more than 30 singles in the top 40 and worldwide sales of more than 100 million. The 1966 album Pet Sounds was voted number 2 in a Rolling Stone list of the best 500 albums, losing out, as Wilson had done before, to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The Beach Boys, who also featured Wilson, cousin Mike Love, and childhood friend Al Jardine, were voted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988. Wilson feuded with Love over songwriting credits, but peers and otherwise adored him beyond envy, from Elton John and Bruce Springsteen to Katy Perry and Carole King. The Who drummer Keith Moon fantasized about joining the Beach Boys. Paul McCartney cited Pet Sounds as a direct inspiration on the Beatles, and the ballad God Only Knows as one among his favorite songs, often bringing him to tears. Wilson moved and fascinated fans and musicians long after he stopped having hits. In his later years, Wilson and a devoted entourage of young musicians performed Pet Sounds and his restored opus Smile before worshipful crowds in concert halls. Meanwhile, the Go-Go's, Lindsey Buckingham, Animal Collective, and Janelle Monáe were among a wide range of artists who emulated him, whether as a master of crafting pop music or as a pioneer of pulling it apart. It is just it's a loss. But like I said, check out that movie if you get a chance. I will. And it's nice to see something that kind of starts out as tragedy and then turn into triumph. That's sort of what the movie is. So yeah.
And in a way, if you follow Brian Wilson's life all the way along, it's been up and down all his life. Which, let's be honest with you, that's kind of how life goes if you really think about it. I was talking about shows where they used Beach Boys songs and whatnot. You mentioned God Only Knows. That was that song they used as the theme song. I think it was HBO. I can't remember if it was HBO or Showtime, had a series called Big Love, and they used that as the soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
The theme song.
I have to bring up this comment. Don't yell at me. Lester, I was 9 when I discovered the Sex Pistols. It was over after that. That might be a band I don't know about, the Troy.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Sex Pistols at all.
I like the Punks. But yeah. But remember when that guy danced the Beach Boys on top of the movie Van and Teen Wolf? Do not attempt it at home. Okay, yeah.
Do not attempt at home. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I don't know. Leatherface was on top of a moving truck to the sound of Oingo Boingo, and he was fine. And
well, there you go. There you go.
Geek Flag, Oral Perfection. I once knew a girl. Hey!
Well, you know,
I'd be tempted.
Wonderful memories, I would say, Nate. Wonderful memories.
All right. So this also continues on. We have a kind of.
This is why I had, I said we'd probably get back to John Stamos. So with the announcement of his death, it was John Stamos who actually had to break the news to Love, and that. Yeah. Remember, the links to all the articles that we're talking about today are in the description below. Go check them out for yourself.
Yeah, John Stamos told Beach Boys Mike Love that Brian Wilson died. Wouldn't it be awful? That's how John Stamos felt, having to break it to Mike Love that the Beach Boys bandmate and cousin Brian Wilson died at 82 on Wednesday. The Full House actor, who has been an honorary Beach Boy playing drums and guitar with the band for 40 years, was traveling with Love when he received the heartbreaking news. I was with Mike. I got off the plane and I got the text. Stamos 61 exclusively told the Post on the red carpet of the Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Thursday before he enshrined Love at New York's Marriott Marquis. I was like, oh boy, I guess I better tell him, I said. Mike, your cousin passed away, and his face went blank. And we sat in the car for, it's rough, especially when you got to be the one to break the news. And we sat in the car for 2.5 hours or so. He didn't say one word. He continued, and I didn't ask him anything, ask him how he was feeling. I knew how he was feeling. Indeed, Stamos, having grown up idolizing the Beach Boys long before he got to know and play with the 60s trailblazers of the California sound, understood the profound loss that frontman Love 84 was processing about the group's mastermind. They had 80-plus years together. He said they made beautiful music together. But Stamos shares in the collective grief that the world is feeling after the death of God only knows giant, one of pop's true visionaries who changed music as we know it. Without Brian Wilson, life would be a mistake, he said. It's been a big blow to all of us. Stamos first played with the Beach Boys 4 decades ago at the Washington Monument on the 4th of July in 1985. This July 4th will be 40 years of nagging them and stalking them, he said. But Stamos had been much more than just a stan. He helped introduce the Beach Boys to a new generation by featuring them on his TV sitcoms Full House and You Again. He also appeared in the video for their 1988 #1 hit Kokomo and directed the clips for 1992's Hot Fun in the Summertime. Stamos feels blessed to have spent a good amount of time with Wilson, recalling one special trip to Montreal. We were doing shows in Montreal. I was with them, and Mike couldn't make about 5 shows, he said. And so Brian came out, and he's the lead singer of the band, and it was great. Even more magic happened behind the scenes, though. We were at Four Seasons in Montreal, and one night he says, let's go find a piano, he said. And so we couldn't find one, and we broke in the ballroom. There was a piano there, and he sat for 2.5 hours, and he played any song we requested. In fact, Stamos marveled. He starts writing a song. While noting that Wilson, who had a history of mental health and substance abuse problems, was complicated, obviously, Stamos shared that he had also a wry sense of humor. Reflecting on inducting Love, who co-wrote Beach Boys classics such as I Get Around, California Girls, Good Vibrations with Wilson, into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, Stamos said, if you would have told me I'd be here tonight, I don't know what I did right in some past life or something. He continued, I've had a lot of honors in my life, a lot of good things, but this may be the greatest honor of my life to be able to give this to him tonight. I think this is long overdue. Mike is getting into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And for Stamos, the Beach Boys music is more necessary than ever 6 decades and 60-something summers later. Decency is at an all-time low and discord is at an all-time high, he said, and we've never needed the Beach Boys music more. I agree with that statement. So, yeah. Listen to
I also want to say hi to Das Wolfen. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, my friend. And Robert's Infinite Realm says John Stamos be looking like Nash Bridges. I was getting a bit of an Elvis vibe here, which would probably be on brand. He was clearly getting a lot of Elvis influence back on his Full House run.
He was on ER for a few seasons too, as I recall.
I don't remember ER, but I do remember him being on. Yeah. I want to say General Hospital. I think he was. He Blackie? He played a character named Blackie, I believe.
Might have been, yeah. I think we mentioned that one stream once.
But yes, Curtis says, "What a beautiful sentiment." Absolutely, that's why I wanted to make sure we included that. It just seemed like a great tribute, more than just a rundown of what Brian Wilson had contributed to music. Kind of a little personal touch too.
All right. Moving on to so rest in peace, Brian Wilson, and
yep,
you'll live for years on with your music. Trust me, you're not going to be forgotten anytime soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. So moving on to another death. This one we may remember him from Ghostbusters 2. So this is Harrison.
Yeah, see, I remember him from a lot of places. I especially remember him as a Cardassian in Deep Space Nine. But
sound terrible, but he seemed old in Ghostbusters too.
Yeah, I kind of did. He had one of those kind, and you'll find this is actually true with a lot of these character actors.
If they're younger, sometimes they can look older than they can cast them in parts.
Exactly right, and then you do tend to have this person that always looks old. You know, we said that about Abe Vigoda too. You know, he looked old. You know, even when he was young, he looked old. And but that also means he doesn't change a lot as he gets older. So
Abe Vigoda was the voice, I believe, of Bruno Mannheim on Superman the Animated Series, the guy in charge of Intergang.
Yes. Okay, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
But in fact, I wonder if Harris Yulin played anybody on any of these DC shows, because everybody showed up on them. Anyway,
I can take a look while you're getting into the article there.
Yeah, actor Harris Yulin, an Emmy-nominated actor who appeared in projects including Frasier and Ghostbusters 2, has died. He was 87. The news was confirmed by Yulin's manager, Sue Liebman, who said in an email to CNN that he passed away June 10th in New York City from cardiac arrest. Yulin was a decorated theater actor, playing Hamlet 3 times off-Broadway and appearing in plays on Broadway, including Hedda Gabler, The Price, and The Visit. He also taught at New York City's prestigious Juilliard School for 8 years.
Wow.
Liebman's email said Yulin was working on new projects with actor and longtime collaborator Stacy Keach.
Wow.
Up until the time of his death. The actor brought his theatrical stage presence into his film work, appearing in Looking for Richard with Al Pacino in 1996. Yulin is perhaps best known to audiences as the angry judge in 1989's Ghostbusters 2, whom Woodley causes the supernatural ghoul to boil over and goes to wreak havoc in the courtroom. That's my favorite scene in that movie.
Yeah.
Because basically you have this old, he's almost like a modern day hanging judge, and he just wants to throw the book at the Ghostbusters as much as he can, and his rage basically causes the Scoleri brothers to appear. The 2 guys he sent to the chair back in his when he was 30 years ago or something.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh no, the Scoleri brothers," and he says, and they show up in electric chairs too, which I thought was a neat touch.
Yeah,
like all sparkling with electricity and stuff. Anyway, his notable film roles include parts in Scarface, Clear and Present Danger, Training Day, and Multiplicity. On the small screen, Yulin scored an Emmy nomination for his work on Frasier in 1996. He also appeared on Veep, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and Just Like That, Billions, and Divorce. Recently, Yulin had a major arc on the hit Netflix series Ozark opposite Jason Bateman and Laura Linney. In the weeks prior to his death, Yulin was preparing to work on a new TV series co-starring Linney along with Kevin Kline, titled American Classic. Director of that series, Michael Hoffman, called Yulin very simply one of the greatest artists I have ever encountered, according to a statement provided by Liebman. And what he was as an actor, he was as a man, the grace, the humility, the generosity. All of us at American Classic have been blessed by our experience with him, Hoffman added. Yulin is survived by his wife, Kristen Lohman, a son-in-law, a nephew, and godchildren. He was preceded by his daughter, actress Claire Lucido, Lieberman said. Oh, I guess she must have passed away as well. Okay. All right. So that's it. And
for those of you that are Star Trek fans, you'll remember him as the character of Eamon Maritza from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a show that before shows started going all preachy. They used to do stories that were very not preachy but thought provoking.
He was was he the Cardassian they caught?
Yes,
war criminal.
It turned out that he was not who he claimed to be.
But he was doing it because he needed the Cardassians to need this needed to be acknowledged.
Yeah, so if you could imagine some, old German who survived World War II, pretending to be one of the infamous National Socialists that did all kinds of nasty, terrible things, and claiming to be that, as if to go on trial and whatnot. Why are you doing this? Kira said to him. This isn't your crime to. He said, because someone has to pay for it. That kind of healing has to happen.
You're a good man, and too many good men have died. I think she says,
yes, exactly, and a very tragic ending for the character, but well played by Harris Yulin, and there are so many roles that, he's got roles going back to. He started his career in the early 70s, 1970, 2 years before I was born. And he's been working steadily since. His IMDb just goes on and on and on and on. Go check it out, and you will see. Just go through the list, and you go, "Oh, I used to watch that show. Oh, I remember that episode." You'll recognize.
Because I remember being introduced to the Cardassians. I know they've been on Star Trek earlier, but the episode where Picard was being tortured. Remember, that was my real introduction to them. But
yep.
And then to see this guy though in the cell, and he was saying all sorts of things like, I don't know if I can repeat that word on air now. YouTube. Okay. Anyway.
Well,
you call something, I call a day's work. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
Like, he was as nasty as he could be, and then Kira finally realizes that. But he was very good at antagonizing her, but he was doing that on purpose because he was trying to be this great villain of the war.
Right, because he was trying. He's literally doing the opposite of his nature, right? He hates the person he's representing and wants to see that, I guess at this point, fictional character be punished, and he's got to stand in and do that.
Remember, he was making a point that when we were given the orders to leave and they told us, I said no, I couldn't have it, and I just started slaughtering all the prisoners. Like he ordered, because even though they were ordered, it's over. You got to leave now. The occupation is over. He still wanted to. That's how.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting. You'd be surprised to hear this, all the Dominion War and other episodes of Space Nine, but that is my favorite episodes of Harris. It's a great episode of Space Nine. I'm not gonna.
It really is. There's a lot of great ones, but that one really is.
I miss old Star Trek. I really do.
I do too.
It's just
and I feel like whenever I hear some modern Kurtzman lover, saying, well, Star Trek was always, progressive and this and that. It's this kind of stuff that they're referring to. It's like
Star Wars. No, it was topical.
You don't even know what you're talking about. It was topical with good writing. Now it's preachy with crappy writing. You cannot compare those.
Your own opinion on what was going on.
Yeah,
the opinion fed to you. That was the point.
Exactly, because it's not as cut and dry as these people want to make it. They want you to believe good on this side, bad on that side, and it's like, no, life is not like that. Unfortunately, that works great in fiction.
Even the Cardassians aren't all bad. You run into good Cardassians. Like there was that one episode, the Cardassian children, that were being raised to hate Cardassians by the Bajorans. Remember that episode? And even O'Brien had a statement, like he says, "Oh, this kid's very gentle." And like he makes a comment to Keiko, gentleness was removed from these people a long time ago. And she said that was a very ugly statement you just made. And because of course O'Brien had his own feelings toward Cardassians because he was in the Federation.
That's true, because he was literally a grunt during the war on the Federation side. Yeah, and he was the one that allowed you to see the Cardassians the way, let's face it, the way my great uncles all represented the Germans and the Japanese.
There's a wonderful episode of Mad Men where that great advertising show where they're having to deal with, I think, a Japanese car manufacturer advertising, and the Roger Sterling just flips out because, of course, he was in the Pacific Theater.
Right.
And it was just, and of course, and I think one of the other advertising guys says, "Oh, I heard from this other agency. There's one of them in every agency or something." The guy that freaks out about dealing with the Japanese, but that was true to the period. It was there.
Absolutely.
Good Star Trek wants you to think. Bad Star Trek tries to tell you what you should think. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, but moving on to not thought-provoking stuff. I'm sorry, I'm being mean to.
Seriously.
Oh, is Dragon Age? Are we starting with Dragon Age? Oh,
sure.
I'm gonna try not to read this whole thing, but a report came, I believe it was on Bloomberg, from Jacen Shear, formerly of Polygon, who, of course, Polygon, I think, has been a gutted news site now, probably deservedly so. But I remember he was making comments on on I think it was on X at the time, saying, "Oh, well, whatever you say about the game, at least they're owning the chuds." I think he said, and it's like, yeah, they got to own the chuds, and now where's their studio?
Yeah. Exactly.
Seriously, stop attacking the fans, because Dragon Age: The Veilguard may be best described as a disappointing entry in the series. The game earned a Metacritic of 82 on PlayStation 5, but was reviews bombed by users so harshly that Metacritic warned users about it. Few will dispute that it doesn't live up to the legacy of previous Dragon Age games, as EA admitted its poor performance to investors, leading the company's stock dropping. But as it turns out, there's a logical explanation for why it ended up this way. As reported by Jacen Shear from Bloomberg, Dragon Age: The Veilguard was the victim of multiple bad decisions by EA management, stacked on top of the other, but it also stems from one pivotal year, 2017. At this time, the industry was starting to notice the growing trend of live service games, and EA was eager to jump in. On October 2017, while part of BioWare was already working on Anthem, Mike Laidlaw told his team that EA gave the order to pivot Dragon Age to multiplayer live service. For those wondering, this was also the reason he left the company. Replacing Laidlaw as creative director was Matt Goldman, who was previously the art director. While he was helping shape this version of the game, he also moved the game to become pulpier and more lighthearted. This was the genesis of Dragon Age: The Veilguard's jarring tone shift, but in Goldman's defense, it would have been better suited with the live service push. You know what a live service game is, right?
I probably do. I just don't know it by that name.
Fortnite, I guess EverQuest or World of Warcraft would also be considered live service games. Something that you pay to play each month.
Okay, gotcha.
Skins for your characters. It's
right.
It's almost like it's a games as service model, as opposed to buying a single player game to play at home and beat. This is something you play online with other people. It's like I said, it covers a lot of different types of games. But like, if you remember EverQuest and like World of Warcraft, things like that, and of course the more popular Fortnite these days. But in 2019, after Anthem bombed in the market, EA decided to pivot the project once again. In 2020, Dragon Age once again turned to a single-player game with Gary McKay taking over BioWare and leading this new direction. This could have been where BioWare turned the whole game around, but EA didn't do the right thing here. Instead of allowing them to completely start over with new budget and timetable, EA gave BioWare a year and a half to finish the project. Other missteps followed, such as friction between Dragon Age team and the Mass Effect team brought in to help. However, even these issues could have been overcome if they weren't forced to work under budget and on a tight schedule. Those of you who play Dragon Age: The Veilguard may have remembered the mixed feelings you felt about the game itself, about things it got right and wrong, about the many changes that just didn't make it feel like a Dragon Age game. You may have even wondered if this Dragon Age even had a reason to exist. It may be called comfort now based on Schreier's report. This report was made under duress from the start. This project was made from duress from the start, and even such projects can be turned around even the final hour, but there were more things that worked against the project than for it, and that's the reason we got Dragon Age the Veilguard. EA has been particularly cutthroat this year, with layoffs at Codemasters and Respawn Entertainment after deciding to cancel Marvel's Black Panther. They were making a Black Panther game, I guess they're not now, and close its studio Cliffhanger Games. We hope that BioWare is able to step back with their new Mass Effect project and be able to turn things around. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are with this. Live service games are like a streaming service for gaming. Well, I consider them. There's a big push in the industry to turn games, I think, into a service like a rental service. For instance, I think live service is a form of that. I think another form of that is, we can put all these great single player games on, but why don't you just subscribe to a monthly service and you can download it, and you don't own it, but you're not paying as much for the full game. We'll get into that later, but
Right.
I heard Veilguard is terrible. I have no first-hand knowledge, as I'm just not motivated to play modern games. I'm kind of getting there, but we'll see. This episode has too much pathos today. Well, like I said, now we're getting into the rot gut. Okay, so you can enjoy it.
Pretty much.
But let's get into our next article, which is my favorite one of the night. Which I meant to cover last week, but it's okay because it kind of ties in what we're talking about. Dragon Age Maestro said he knew. Says okay. Dragon Age Maestro says. I can't even read that headline. Hold on, give me a moment. Dragon Age, he says EA always spoke about the hypothetical nerd cave of diehard RPG fans who will always show up. So yeah, so let me read this article. Did you like my picture there?
Yes,
That's
perfect.
the nerd from the nerd cave. That's from an old Law and Order episode where there was a addicted gamer in the episode. So I thought that was like, I always feel this image is like the worst media stereotype of what a gamer looks like.
Right.
So, a Dragon Age veteran says EA liked to refer to a cave where RPG fans who could be trusted to buy anything the genre threw at them would dwell. Speaking to Games Radar, BioWare veteran David Gator explained that before he left BioWare, his tastes had become somewhat old-fashioned in EA's eyes. I was very vocal on the Dragon Age team, he says. I was always trying to push it to our traditional mechanics, and that wasn't very welcome in the EA sphere. He says that EA considered those mechanics, the kind that shape games like Dragon Age Origins, to be slow and cumbersome rather than the actiony and slick presentation that the studio was being pushed toward. That meant that Gator's views were often not very welcome despite his long tenure at the studio and work on many of its most famous RPGs. That's partly because he says EA didn't think the traditional RPG audience was one that was worth focusing on. He claims that overseers referred to those mechanics as being in the cave. The cave, he explains, was where the nerds went. The nerds were in the cave. You made an RPG and the nerds in the cave would always show up for an RPG because it was an RPG. That devotion to the chosen genre in EA's eyes meant that you didn't have to worry about the nerds. You didn't have to try and appeal to them. You had to worry about the people who weren't in the cave, which was the audience we actually wanted, which was much larger. Really, Gator clarifies that the audience that EA wanted, and it basically got what it wanted. Unfortunately for the publisher, the end point of that philosophy was Anthem, a live service effort that flopped entirely at launch and was entirely abandoned within 2 years. The benefit was that BioWare was able to refocus somewhat on its single-player RPGs, and last year's Dragon Age Veilguard eventually released Mass Effect 5. Although with that game still in pre-production this year, it might be some time before we get it. So this article is, of course, a week old. Now we're learning about all the trouble that happened with Dragon Age: The Veilguard, how that got. But what did you think of that?
I think the results pretty much speak for themselves. The fact that apparently they didn't get the audience they wanted at all should tell you everything. And look, we've been talking about this for as long as we've been doing this idea of antagonizing your primary audience for the sake of some greater audience that doesn't actually exist, you just believe in your head exists, is a great way to bankrupt your company. So again, you may feel good about getting the zinger in on those nerds that you don't like, but congratulations, you just put yourself out of work.
So when we look at some of the more popular recent RPGs, we had Baldur's Gate 3, big deal. I believe that used classic mechanics, or at least was trying to use actual like D&D like terminology, rule base in it. There's another RPG that came out recently. I'm sorry, I can't think of its name. Someone in the chat may know. It's a big deal RPG that came out, made by a small team of like 30 people, and it's been a huge hit. And it actually used turn-based mechanics, which basically shows that all these people saying people don't like turn-based mechanics. Why is this new indie game doing so well, and all these big studio games are doing poorly? I don't know, but I don't know. I just think to talk about your customer base that way, you're basically calling your customer base a bunch of nerds.
Nerds is that kind of word. It's kind of like a lot of other words that your initial reaction is that it's derogatory, but it could also be a positive if it's coming from the right place.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends on the intent, but the intent
exactly. The intent here is clearly negative, and it's like
a suit.
Again, why do you give money to companies that hate you? Because you want this crap plugged into your vein, and you will, you are what he is describing if you are giving money to them.
Though.
No, I understand that. I am saying whatever few morons are actually, paying for this stuff, they are living what he is describing. You are the stupid nerd that will pay for it no matter what because it's got the name on it that you love. And I have said this about everything. You'll go and buy anything that's got Star Wars on it, that's got Star Trek on it, that's got Marvel on it, because you are that obsessed. And basically you're a fool because you are contributing to the downfall of the things you claim to love. But thankfully, you're absolutely right. Those people are more and more and more in the minority, where they're starting to get to the point where, like me with Tab, I was starting to realize, this isn't that soda that I liked from the 70s anymore. Yeah. It doesn't taste the same. And the nostalgia isn't even there for me because it doesn't have what I loved about it anymore.
Here's the title of the game, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. That's the game that came out recently that didn't have one of these big bloated studios. It's a classic RPG, and everybody's loving it. So I guess the nerds showed up for that game. They didn't show up for your game.
Right, and Robert's Infinite Realm says, I heard Veilguard is terrible. I have no firsthand knowledge as I'm not motivated to play modern games. Yeah, so this is the other thing too. If they're going to get somebody like Robert's Infinite Realms, right, who isn't otherwise motivated to play a modern game, how do you get that audience? Not by pissing off your audience, by making something that's so good that gets such a good word of mouth that Robert's Infinite Realm says, hey, wait a minute, everyone seems to like this. Maybe it's worth me checking out,
So me right now, this is where I'm sort of at. I like playing retro games. That also includes retro remasters that come out on modern consoles. I also like a lot of indie developers, and I think indie developers are sort of where it's at. It's these small teams, the people doing the startups by themselves making these games. Like I said, I think I just mentioned Expedition 33, which was a big hit. I think these big AAA studios have been terrible. I just they keep throwing money at things, and the product is terrible. And it's funny because even some of the game journals were criticizing some of these small indie studios, saying, "Well, is it really a good thing you have a team of 30 making a hit game?" It's like, yes, it is a good thing. It's a good thing that people can make more with less and make a quality product and not. And they also didn't charge $80 for it either. I think they charged $50 for it. I mean,
yeah,
it's just. I've said it before. They think they're fixing the world. Oh, indie games and indie toy companies are really stepping up and delivering. Indie comics and movies should take it. Yeah, especially everything in the indie sphere. I think because these people, let's face facts, they start out as fans, and they're looking at what's going on, and they're seeing they're not getting what they want. So then they start doing their own stuff. Same goes for the toys, right, Troy?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, and here we go. I'm not dead yet. A
Ah,
couple weeks ago, we reported that the Xbox handheld had been canceled. Now, to be fair, that article might have been talking about a different handheld that they had canceled. So Xbox officially enters the handheld space, but Nintendo won't be worried. Okay, Xbox has official. I keep forgetting people consider the Switch a handheld. I guess it technically is, even though I use it as a console. But Xbox has officially entered the handheld space with the announcement of two new devices, the ROG Xbox Ally and the ROG Xbox Ally X, launching toward the end of 2025. The new portable systems are the result of a collaboration between Xbox and Asus. They aim to take advantage of Xbox Play Anywhere, a service that lets you play across console, PC, and supported handhelds. The standard ROG Xbox Ally comes with 16 gigabyte RAM and 500 gigabyte SSD storage. That doesn't sound like a lot. What do you think?
no, it doesn't. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay. Oh,
don't tell me it's upgradable. Am I right?
I don't know. Actually, okay. The
Oh wait, you want this? You want this to have memory? Yeah, you got to buy that separately. Wait, you want it to have controls? You got to buy that separately. You want to be able to plug it into the wall? You got to buy the cord separately.
Well, this is why I'm so angry at the switch to the whole digital cards thing, like the key card
Yeah.
thing. It's not just the fact that you're not getting a physical game. That game still has to be stored on your storage, and that's going to take up a lot more room than if you had just had it working off the card.
Yep.
And it's the same thing here. It's okay. Apparently there's a Herrin model that has 24 gigabyte RAM and 1 terabyte SSD storage. Look at that. A whole terabyte.
Whoa.
Terabyte should be the minimum, not the higher end. Okay.
At this point, I think you're absolutely right.
The latter also benefits from AMD. I think 2 terabytes would be a nice minimum, but that's just me. AMD. You want people buying the games? Oh no, wait, that's right. You want them paying for your.
Yeah, they don't want you to own anything. You will own nothing and be happy. That's where they're at.
A step up. I don't even know what they're talking about here. Aesthetically, the two look pretty similar, with grips that take inspiration from the Xbox controller and face buttons that look instantly familiar to those well acquainted with Microsoft console line. The main difference is the Ally X comes in black and the standard Ally in white. Okay.
Well, all right.
I don't know why you have to differentiate on color, but anyway, okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, to be clear, though, as highlighted by our pals over at Pure Xbox, these devices are Windows PC handhelds first and foremost. They don't play console games, but rather native PC titles on Xbox. So essentially, with Xbox Play Anywhere, which boasts over, you get a PC version of the game for free when you buy it on an Xbox console. Oh, are you kidding me? This is their version of a Steam Deck.
Oh, God. There you go.
Or you can just buy a Steam Deck and be happy.
Oh, for crying out loud. Steam
Decks are really cool. It's like a portable Steam console. You can also hook it up to your TV if you'd rather, too. And it plays your Steam games on it. What's not clear, however, is how these things will cost. Xbox recently raised prices. There's a rumor going around that the price of this thing is going to be $1,000, but it's a rumor, so I can't verify. It came out today.
It's a rumor that sounds very plausible in the modern market.
What are your thoughts on Xbox's new ROG Ally handhelds? Are you interested? I'm going to hold off for the time being. I have bought games on the Xbox. I think I got when I got Doom on the Xbox, it came with the PC version that you have to play on Xbox's proprietary thing, but anyway, are we interested in this, chat? You excited? You gonna pick one up? Huh?
Well, I'm certainly not. I mean, this isn't my bag. I'm not even the target audience for this.
Oh, so are you saying this thing will run Steam? That would be kind of interesting. So they would be directly competing with Steam. I don't know. I don't know. I know that there's a rumor that the next Xbox console is basically just going to be a gaming PC that you'll actually be able to play Steam games on it as well as other things. But I'm so glad I don't touch any of this stuff. Well, it's gotten complicated. The problem is gaming's gotten complicated. Console gaming was not supposed to be expensive. I mean, we're going to get into consoles in a minute. It was supposed to be the cheap alternative for those who couldn't really afford PC gaming. Because in the old days, PC gaming was what was expensive. You had to buy a proper PC. You had to get a proper graphics card. You had to get a proper sound card. Remember all that?
Yeah.
Back in the day? Or you could just buy a game console. And game consoles had their own limitations, but they were ready to run out of the box and you didn't need anything else. Now I feel like PC gaming is becoming the cheaper alternative to console gaming.
Yeah.
Xbox needs to concentrate on games that are not buggy. Yes, I know, like Redfall, but it's not about whether or not their games are buggy. It's about them not getting the library they should have in the 7th generation, according to Phil Spencer. I remember when he was asked that live on air, and he just started complaining, "Oh, we'll never get ahead because we didn't get that." I'm like, no, they're not asking you about that. They're asking about the fact that you released a first-party Xbox title and it was a buggy mess. This is you, the company, releasing a game. This wasn't some third party. I mean, I'll say this for Sony: they screwed up with Concord, but at least they refunded everybody their money. They
Fair.
okay, we screwed up. We're going to refund you the money. Okay, so here we go. Video game performers on strike for almost a year over AI issues reach a tentative deal.
Yeah.
This was from Marc Malnekoff. I forgot there are actors
Yep.
that perform in video games, and I'm thinking,
Yes, they do.
They have to be sweating over this AI stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking,
yeah. I should have been smart enough to prepare in advance. There's a YouTuber that I watch. She is she's a voice actress, and she does a lot of voices that you've heard. And what's amazing is watching. She's a very pretty girl.
Yeah.
But the way she changes her voice so dramatically, it's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's a talent I can't even fathom. And she talks about, the skill that's involved, the headspace you got to get into to get different voices, stuff like that. And she has talked about the whole AI thing, and it is a concern. It is a concern.
There was a problem with the voiceover actors because a lot of cartoons later on, they started using actual live actors to do you get like a famous actor do a voice in a Disney movie,
right.
And eventually a lot of these voice actors that would typically be in these cartoon movies or cartoon shows, like I always talk about the great voice cast on Batman the Animated Series or Superman, but to be fair, a lot of these voices tend to be named talent that have been on live screen things. So that kind of puts a lot of the poor voice actors, they didn't know where to go, but where they ended up going were anime dubs and video game voiceovers, video game acting work. That's where a lot of them found work after kind of the bottom fell out in animation because they were using more named actors. But let me read in this article. The Union for Hollywood's video game performers has reached a tentative contract with several video game companies that may be an end to an almost year-long strike tied to the use of artificial intelligence. Members of the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists went on strike in July 2024 after negotiations with game industry giants came to a halt over artificial intelligence protections. SAG-AFTRA said that the unregulated use of AI pose an equal or even greater threat to performers in the video game industry than it does in film and television because the capacity to cheaply and easily create convincing digital replicas of performers' voices is widely available. This is true. We saw with the Google VO.
Exactly.
How easy. And the performers were worried that unchecked use of AI could provide game makers with a means to displace them by training an AI to replicate an actor's voice or to create a digital replica and their likeness without consent. Patience and persistence has resulted in a deal that puts in place the necessary AI guardrails that defend performers' livelihoods in the age of AI alongside other important gains. SAG-AFTRA National Executive Director and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland said in a statement, the union has been negotiating with an industry bargaining consisting of signatory video game companies, including divisions of Activision and Electronic Arts. Those companies include Activision Productions, Blind Light LLC, Disney Character Voices Incorporated, Electronic Arts Productions, Epic Games Incorporated for most interactive, Insomniac Games, things like that. SAG-AFTRA said that it anticipates that the terms of the strike suspension agreement will be finalized with the company soon. Union members will remain on strike until such an agreement is reached. The tentative contract deal still needs approval by National Board and ratification by union membership. Video game performers have previously gone on strike in October 2016, with a tentative deal reached 11 months later in September 2017. That strike helped secure a bonus compensation structure for voice actors and performance capture artists. It's interesting. I do take for granted just how much voiceover work is used in almost every game nowadays. In fact, I think there was a big deal that the longtime Princess Peach actress had been replaced by Nintendo recently. I'm not sure if the original actress knew about that, but that might be a story for next week. But
well, there's also and I do try to see things from both sides. So when you look at the producers of shows and games and so on and so forth, and their use of voice actors, you got to think long term. It's kind of no different than a lot of movies and stuff. It's like if you tie yourself to a specific person and they're going to negotiate salaries higher and higher and higher, you eventually got to go, you know what, I can't. We can't continue this and still be profitable. Maybe it's time to start looking at someone else, right? Is Boomer an AI voice? It's funny, Darth Plato, because at the very beginning of the show, I kind of was needling him about. I said, "Sounds like you're reading off a script." He goes, "Well, I'm preparing for the day when I'm replaced by AI."
It's a joke, no, because he jokes, but no, I'm serious. I'm wondering if in a couple years they'll be able to create voices that sound indistinguishable from an actual person. I mean, they're
Sometimes
almost there now, but I don't think they're quite there yet. But they're just getting closer every day. And I'm really
some of
wondering.
them are right now. The issue is, and it's the same problem that we have with the AI art. It's the lack of ability to refine it. But as you get program, and it's always gonna be this kind of an industry shift. You're gonna shift from the actor to the technical guy, right?
Yes.
Same thing with you shifted from the stop motion animator and the matte painting artists to computer graphics guys. You know,
like matte paintings.
I personally am of the mind right tool for the right job. Right? I mean, no technique should ever be completely abandoned. I think we have a tendency to go all in on the new hotness, and I think you're trying to oftentimes squeeze a square peg into a round hole. And we've seen that a lot with AI, and now we're going to, or excuse me, with CG, and we're going to start seeing a lot of it with AI as well. But getting back to what I was saying about, you know, people pricing themselves out of the market, you see it with movies all the time, and I feel like Hollywood needs to have more of this kind of mentality where it goes, look, we can't have Harrison Ford be Indiana Jones forever. We should replace him after a couple movies with Brandon Fraser, and then replace Brandon Fraser with somebody else, the younger actor.
Yes.
Who, you know, and you paint yourself into a corner when you tie the actor to the role. And I think that voice acting does the same thing. By example, looking at Star Wars, right? What did they do? The first, I'd say, big replacement that they did, and it was out of necessity because of the death of the actor, was Sir Alec Guinness. They replaced Sir Alec Guinness with Ewan McGregor. Now, there was another reason they had to do that. They needed a younger actor. So he's playing a younger Alec Guinness, right?
Yeah.
But now he's tied to that role. And so they will always keep going back to him whenever they want to cast a live action Obi-Wan Kenobi. But you'll notice it wasn't his voice that they used in the Clone Wars, the cartoon series. They got somebody else for that, who was a very talented voice actor. And you know, well, yes, and look, the cartoon TV series of movies and whatnot is a history of that, right? They didn't bring in Michael Keaton or Val Kilmer or I forget the other guy's name to do Batman the Animated Series. Right, exactly.
Kevin Conroy, you mean, the Batman the Animated Series?
They got Kevin Conroy. Right. Now, Kevin Conroy became the iconic Batman voice, right? And now he kind of, you could argue, they started to run where, okay, we can't do anything but Kevin Conroy because everybody loves Kevin Conroy. Well, guess what? Go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt your point. Sorry. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, there came a point where you have to start measuring out, do we keep going with Kevin Conroy or do we replace him? Oh, wait a minute. Kevin Conroy just died. Now we have zero choice.
Okay.
Right?
They've had other actors voice Batman. For a lot of those original DC movies, they were purposely trying not to use the traditional DC cast with a lot of those because they were trying to branch out. Like Bruce Greenwood played Batman in one of them. I know we had a different voice actor for Batman on the Batman animated series, which was made after Batman the animated. It was not related to Batman the animated series. There was a different voice for Batman on Batman the Brave and the Bold too, and I don't think. I love Kevin Conroy. Yes, he will be an iconic Batman voice, but I don't think that.
Well, there is another
Stop
reason to
trying to
change.
imitate him. Same goes for the Joker.
Right.
I feel like sometimes new Joker voice actors they're trying to do Mark Hamill.
If there's anybody, if there's any character that you could change the actor on, like every damn time you show him, should be the Joker. Because the Joker is the epitome of he reinvents himself every single time. But there is also something to be said for, especially with all this multiversal crap, right? If you are going to say this is in canon with the Batman the Animated Series, yeah, you probably did want Kevin Conroy. If you want to say, no, this stands on its own, you almost don't want to use Kevin Conroy. You want somebody else so that you could say, this is a completely non-canon to that. It's its own thing. It's its own right?
thing, yeah. I know that, I think, who played the voice of the Joker on... Brent Spiner played him on Young Justice. I remember that. He was the
really?
Yes.
That's bizarre. I'll have to look into that.
Some people didn't like his take, but I did. I thought he was good. But that's the thing. You can get different actors too.
Yeah.
Because of course, Young Justice was made by the guy that made Gargoyles, and he had worked with Spiner before on Gargoyles. So I think that's why he cast him as the Joker on that. But you can have different voice actors as these things. In fact, I think on the Batman, the actor who did the voice of the Joker was black, which was interesting because. That's the great thing about animation. You can cast whoever you want, whatever part, because it's just a voice, right?
Yeah, yes. I'm gonna make another comment that this is gonna seem like a hot take, I'm sure. But everyone, I want you to actually take a second to think about this for a moment. When it comes to the AI voice acting in computer games, getting it back to the topic that we're specifically on.
Yes.
There might almost be a necessity for it. And here's why I say that. Look at what's happening with Darth Vader's voice in, what is that shooting game that everyone's talking about?
Fortnite,
thank you, yes. Where you have an interactive voice. It's not pre-recorded voice. It's responding through a kind of AI chatbot kind of thing to the player. And for that kind of interactivity, unless you're going to have an actor literally online voicing in real time with every single person interacting with their character 24/7, you're going to need an AI voice. Now, by the same token, if you're going to start going that route, and I see a benefit to that, then you do need the kind of agreement where, for example, James Earl Jones's voice, people can get bent out of shape about it, but keep in mind, James Earl Jones wrote a contract with Disney.
It's legal.
And his estate is making money off of his voice as if he was still alive, providing that voice. So that could very well be the way to go going forward. If you're going to have an AI voice, that's fine. You contract with an actor to provide that voice to you. And as long as you're using that person's voice, you're paying that actor. That is the common ground. Just saying.
Yeah.
So that's why I said stay with me. I was going somewhere with that.
I like it, and it's getting paid to the estate, and the estate, I guess, gets royalties, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it also gives the creator the ability, again, especially if you're going to go the whole route of this person is the only voice, it's got to always be that voice. Well, that's fine. You better have Kevin Conroy's voice recorded and a contract with Kevin Conroy so that you can keep using that voice beyond his death, because that's the other thing to keep in mind. It's not just the price of the actor going up over time. It's also the fact that humans are finite. They will die eventually. Do you want the character to die because the actor died? No more Batman ever because Kevin Conroy died. See, that's where you run into a problem. that makes short videos with Star Wars comics using AI voices along with Indiana Jones. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those. Some of them are better than others. Because let's face it, some people are better at using the AI tools than others are. I don't see why. Yeah, especially for these fan type things. Nobody's making money off of these things, so I see far less problem with that.
No, I'm already starting to get duped by some of these AI things. Like I saw some guy at a convention meets a robot, wants her to be his girlfriend, like he kisses one of the animatronic robot there. I'm like, wait, that's AI. The whole thing was AI. The guy is AI.
Yeah. The whole story is generated by AI. Yeah,
it's just a short clip because, of course, they are doing stuff with robots at conventions now that are looking more realistic. But
I do want to apologize to the chat in case we've been missing anybody. We're kind of getting into the articles, but I do want to say hi to Jedi Master 2022's Lost in Space and Classic Sci-Fi. Be sure to check out his channel. He's over there on Netter's channel. Great supporter. Thank you so much for being here. As are all of you. You guys definitely do encourage us. I'm sorry I got you off track, Boomer.
Let's get on track.
I am a bad sidekick.
Do you like that picture, by the way?
I'm at the point where I don't like seeing cues anymore because
Cues?
I know lines of people lined up for something because I know what's going to happen. The first 3 people are going to get in, buy it all up, resell them on eBay for 3 times as much, and all these other effers that waited are out of luck.
Nintendo has announced that the Switch 2 has become the company's fastest-selling hardware ever globally, with 3.3 million units sold in its first 4 days. It's fastest-selling Nintendo hardware. Nintendo shared the news on Twitter X, stating that it's called X now. Okay,
yeah, anyway. Just call it X, yeah.
Saying that at Nintendo Switch 2 has sold over 3.5 million units worldwide in its first 4 days, becoming the fastest-selling Nintendo hardware ever globally. The big number was undoubtedly reached in large part thanks to available stock of Switch 2, which hasn't always been guaranteed in the past for hardware from Nintendo and its competitors. It also falls in line with Nintendo of America's boss Doug Bowser's comments that Nintendo will have enough Switch 2 units to meet demand in the U.S. And demand there has been. I swear if I'm not mistaken, I think, what's the term I'm looking for? I think they psychologically influence people to want this thing. I don't know.
Fear of missing out. FOMO, yeah.
What are you missing out on? Mario Kart? What else is out on it? That's not anything else at the moment.
Again, this is what I'm talking about. These are the people that jerk was talking about. The nerds that will pay for it no matter what.
Caves. Okay.
Yeah. And that is what destroys exactly the thing that they love. They enable mediocrity, and then you're in no position to complain because you have been positively reinforcing this forever. You've literally given them direct access to your wallet is what you've done. And that's why most of the rest of us that have a little bit of sense go, goodbye. We're walking away.
The big number was undoubtedly reached in large part the available stock. Okay, and for comparison, the original Switch sold 2.74 million units in less than its first month. This news arrives shortly after the game business reportedly that Switch 2 was now the fastest-selling console in UK history, surpassing the previous record holder, the Nintendo DS. That's weird that the Nintendo 3DS sold well, because I remember there was a problem when that system came out. It actually was too expensive, and Nintendo almost issued an apology later on, and they reduced the price of it. And I remember the people that did buy it early, they gave them a bunch of digital games for free. So, like, they gave them a bunch of digital copies of Game Boy Advance games and other things for free. And this was the only time they did that. You couldn't even buy these games later on. But I think it was an apology because they realized they had overpriced the system. But that was back when Nintendo was run by different people. Anyway, this news arrived shortly after the game business report of Switch 2 is now... okay. I'm kind of shocked that it's sold as well, though, because, again, I'm wondering... I mean, the Donkey Kong game isn't even out for it yet. The Donkey Kong game looks good. That looks good. But again, I can't get past the high price, and I can't get past the game key cards. The game key cards are really. I guess the expected shortages of the Switch was exaggerated. They fudged the numbers on the pre-orders to create false. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right because they even canceled pre-orders. And if there's ready stock available, there was no need you had for canceling pre-orders, right? The stores that
Sure.
did. There was no on game prices, not Hasbro, BS, HasLab, overpriced stuff. I
Yeah.
just feel like customers are being taken advantage now, and the problem is you have
True.
people like this lining up for anything. I've never lined up for a console. This has not happened. I don't care about getting something at launch. As I said, I've only done that with one console in my entire game buying history. I only bought one console at launch, and that was the Nintendo 64. But back then, you could just go into a store and pick up a thing, and it was a nice, simple process. Now it's I don't know. This seems like a headache to me. But yeah, Real Life Fake Wizard was not happy about this. But the point is that you have shown Nintendo that they can charge you a lot more for a console, and we'll see if you also show them they can charge a lot more for games, and you'll take it. I get tired of hearing all this stuff about how games in the past were also expensive, blah blah, and inflation, all this stuff. People don't understand that a lot more people are buying games now than they were back in the 90s. It's a much bigger industry, so they can afford to not charge as much, or even to charge what they did back in the day. I just think $80 is ridiculous. Are we at that article yet? We are. The Outer Worlds 2 launches at $80.
Yeah.
Joining new trend in gaming. So here it is. The Outer Worlds 2 from developer Obsidian Entertainment is a follow-up to 2019 sci-fi action RPG that felt a slightly shallower version of Fallout 4, but in space. Yeah, it wasn't a good game. Let's not even. And trust me, you complain about the woke stuff in games. This was another one where the woke stuff was in it. When the Outer Worlds 2 launches on October 29th, it'll carry a tag price of $80 for both the PC and Xbox versions, a $20 increase from the original game's $60 launch price in 2019. It's the second major title confirmed at this higher price, following Mario Kart World for the Switch 2. Now, this was Microsoft. Remember I told you a few weeks back that they decided that in the future games are going to be $80 on Xbox, right?
Right.
Microsoft didn't immediately respond to a request for comment about the price of the Outer Worlds 2. People have their theory. They think Microsoft's plan with this is different than Nintendo's. I don't know why Nintendo is charging the high price for their games. I think we have an idea why Microsoft is doing it, though. But back in May, Microsoft announced it was raising prices for the Xbox Series console accessories. While the Xbox Series console price increase can be clearly attributed to tariffs instituted by President Donald Trump back in April. They keep bringing that up. Since then, the system.
I told you that's the excuse that we saw the same thing with the movie industry blaming COVID for everything. It's like you can keep doing that as long as you want, but people aren't going to buy it after a certain point.
Let's see here though. My feeling about this is this: Microsoft has this thing called Xbox Game Pass. And you can either pay $80, buy your game at launch, or you can just get it for free on Game Pass. But you're not getting it for free. You're paying a monthly subscription fee to be on Game Pass, and you don't own the game. You just get to play it as long as you're on Game Pass. Do you understand?
Yes.
Once you decide to get rid of your Game Pass subscription, you don't own that game anymore.
Right.
You can't play it unless you subscribe to Game Pass or you buy a physical copy of it. I'm wondering if Xbox is now wants the prices of games to rise on consoles because they really want to push the idea that you should just rent your games. Kind of like in the old days of VHS when you would have to go to a store and rent it because VHS tapes came out at $100, right?
Right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I think it almost feels like we're working backwards from where we were. Whereas instead of a game being something you go to a store and you buy, and it may even come out at a bargain price during holiday sales, or maybe even if it's a bestseller, you'll get it for less. Now it's like, let's keep things at $80 or more permanently, or you can just rent it off of the service.
Right.
We understand that these changes are challenging, and they were made with careful consideration given market conditions and the rising cost of development. Microsoft said in its announcement about the price increases. Looking ahead, we continue to focus on offering more ways to play more games across any screen and ensuring value for Xbox players. You weren't ensuring value with the release of Redfall, which was a broken mess.
True.
Okay, developing a AAA game like The Outer Worlds can be expensive. The first Outer Worlds was speculated to cost between 30 and 40 million and was noted for having a constrained budget, as team members mentioned in the documentary about the making of the game. As the price of labor increases and the time development times continue to lengthen, the cost to make games will continue to rise. I'm starting to wonder if the reason these game times are taking so long is because you get paid for how long the game. I don't know. Never mind. What do I know? I'm just thinking out loud.
Speculation. I get it.
Rockstar Games' Grand Theft Auto 6 reportedly has a budget of more than $1 billion, partly due to the game being in development for 5 to 7 years. Due to that high budget, some experts warn not to be surprised if Grand Theft Auto 6 costs $100.
$100.
Fortunately, The Outer Worlds 2 will be available on Xbox Game Pass at launch, and Microsoft has given no indication that it plans to increase subscription prices anytime soon. Well, they're not going to increase the subscription prices anytime soon. They're going to make you think that you're getting a bargain with Game Pass until you get used to Game Pass. And then eventually, when you're hooked in, that's when they increase the subscription prices.
Yep.
They want everything to be a service. They don't want it to be something. They don't want it to be a product that you own.
Really, they want it to be an addiction. You actually hit it exactly right.
Well, there are people in the game industry that really would like it to be like gambling, where you're always going to the casino. And Microsoft Xbox.
Now, you're not wrong.
Isn't shit without a new Halo release, says Jesse Gajardo. Halo's been from what I've heard, it's been a mess for a while, and I'm telling you, people were really angry about that Halo TV show that came out.
Nah,
which just messed with the lore, because Halo actually has a deep science fiction lore to it. I mean, it's just it's a game console that's going to keep making those things until the Switch 3 is a thing. Switch 3 won't be a thing for a while, but who knows? PlayStation 6 may be further along than we think. Okay, and this isn't really. I mean, this is sort of game related. I think it's more YouTube community rated. I wanted to bring this up. Please help him, Slopes Game Room. There's an update to this, so I'll read the update after the original story, but I thought this was kind of scary. I thought you might have found this interesting.
Yes, I did.
Longtime readers of the site, this is from Time Extension, will be aware that big fans of Slopes Game Room here at Time Extension, run by Daniel Ibertson, a.k.a. DJ Slope. The channel is a treasure trove of insightful videos and diligent reporting, with the latter often focusing on some of the less pleasant business practices that take place in the beloved industry. One such video recently highlighted the increasingly unhinged Super Sega saga, and Iberson has been tracking recent developments with the aim of expanding his coverage of the platform, which has been branded a scam by many people. I should probably do some research into this myself. My idea was, I think AliExpress or somebody else was selling these Sega consoles that were not officially endorsed by Sega. I think Sega was threatening to sue, but then they backed off for some reason. I don't know why. However, it would seem that Iberson's investigative journalism efforts may have put his channel at risk of deletion. In a recent post on social media, Iberson says he had joined a Super Sega WhatsApp group under a false name to keep abreast of the regular updates would be given on the progress of the system. I've never communicated in this group or interacted in any way, he says. The group is almost entirely in Spanish, a language I cannot speak, so I very rarely logged in. On the 4th of March 2025, I exported the entire chat of several thousand messages, images, videos, stickers, and GIFs, and uploaded them to my Google Drive in order for my Spanish translator to look and let me know if anything was worth reporting on. Unfortunately, hours later, he discovered that his entire Google account was disabled due to harmful content. Iberson believed this was the nature of the WhatsApp chat, which included several images of hate speech nature that triggered Google's system. Not only was I unaware of what was in this public WhatsApp group, but it was solely for investigative journalism. Yeah, he was a journalist investigating this group. But now I think they think he's part of this group, which was not what was going on. Iverson has been trying to get in touch with Google about resolving the issue, but hasn't heard anything back, hence the public appeal for help. I understand why Google has taken the steps it had taken, and I tried to resolve them with this without going public. However, often was weak of failing to communicate with anybody, because I guess you can't get in touch with anybody over there.
Right.
To hopefully build up support on social media, know where to speak with someone, and hopefully fix this ASAP. Not only is YouTube my full-time job, but Google Photos includes 20 years of memories with me and my family that I'm petrified of losing. So he was investigating this group probably under his own Google account. He probably should have created a separate Google account, but he wasn't doing anything malicious. He wasn't even interacting with anybody in this group. He was just, observing.
Right.
But I think as a result, Google flagged him and they were going to get rid of his channel, even though there was no bad content on his channel. But apparently there's been an update. Dan Emerson has revealed that his YouTube channel is no longer at risk of deletion. In the video above, he reveals that with some assistance from some individuals at Google, he's able to secure his channel and is no longer under threat. Well, at least someone over there listens, so I will give credit where credit is due. That's my own words. Emerson adds that he will no longer be covering the antic of Super Sega boss Alejandro Martin, who in his latest live stream appears half naked. He needs professional help, concludes Ibbotson. So yeah, he was just investigating these people. He wasn't part of this group, but it was like being an undercover reporter, right? That's how.
Yeah, exactly. This is. I don't know if people kind of realize this, but this is the other side of the whole AI problem. When you have AI in charge of everything and no ability to communicate with a human being and say, no, this is not, what the computer thinks it is. Make this stop.
Yes. I'm not, this is like trying to explain to the police officer, no, this is not what it looks like or something. And then, the police officer can make a judgment.
And sometimes that's literally the case. And the cop goes, oh, okay, never mind.
Yes. Let me see. I have a feeling the game developers finish a game only for some team leader and upper management to redo everything, costing more and more of the company cannot afford it. Of course they do. No, I know a lot of these decisions are being made by dudes in suits that call the RPG fans nerds in caves. But
right, exactly.
I'm glad that Slopes was able to save his channel. I was actually going to be going on a tear, but it looks like at least the right thing was done. So moving on to...
Sometimes things actually do work out the way they're supposed to.
That's good. So I'm glad he saved his channel because it sounded like it was his livelihood there. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Moving on to Warner Brothers Discovery is splitting into two companies. Oh, wow. Is this official? I think this is official now, isn't it? Or is this a rumor? Okay, let me read the article. Okay, Warner Brothers Discovery is splitting into two separate publicly traded companies, one orientated around the HBO Max streaming service and Warner Brothers Studio, and the other around CNN and other television networks. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The first company known for now as Streaming and Studios will be led by CEO David Zaslav. And the second company, Global Networks, will be led by a chimpanzee. No, I'm sorry. I get the feeling.
So in other words, it doesn't make much of a difference.
No, that's my joke. I'm just thinking they don't. I feel like they're spinning off all the junk into one company.
Maybe, yeah.
The stuff that's not profitable. The separation aims to be provided each company with greater strategic flexibility and focus, the company said in a statement. I have a question. Which company is going to hold the $40 billion in debt? CNN company.
Excellent question. Kind of makes you wonder if that's not why they're doing this, in fact.
And what company are the shareholders going to have stock in?
Right. Well, actually, no. With a split, you usually end up owning stock in both.
But I don't want stock in both.
Then you sell the stock for the one that you don't want, and you probably still end up making money on the deal.
This whole thing, I don't know. I mean, okay. I mean, seriously, is CNN worth anything? What else? TBS?
So I was just going to say my gut instinct is to say no. But CNN actually does seem to be trying to, the worm is kind of turned over at CNN, and you're starting to see a whole lot more actual news being reported by them lately. It's shocking. It's like, really?
Could they sell this?
You're supposed to be You're supposed to be a news outlet. You start reporting the news, and people start responding positively. Imagine that. Who would have guessed?
Could they sell this other company to someone else just to offload it? Could like China technically buy CNN and all these other piddly American cable outlets?
I
I
mean,
wonder if that's what the goal is. They just want this stuff dumped. They want to get it out of. They want to get the stuff that they see as not being the thing that makes them money, and just get rid of,
well,
like the cable
there
stations.
is something to be said for that, right? Tomorrow, Netta and I are going to go through our refrigerator, see if anything has gone off, so we can throw it in the garbage, because on Tuesday they come to pick up the garbage. That's exactly what these companies have to do from time to time.
It's funny you mentioned that. Did you know that there's an indie video game out now which is kind of inspired by the old NES game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? But instead of fighting boxers, the character is fighting his refrigerator leftovers.
Oh my gosh!
Like
that's so funny.
And then like a cabbage roll later, and like just stuck because they're angry because he didn't eat them. So now they're fighting him.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. No, I had not heard about that, but that is good stuff.
Yes. So let's see. Monday's announcement is Warner Bros. Discovery answer to investment pressure and intensive industry-wide change. As the cable television business contracts in the streaming era, Zaslav offers shareholders a way to invest in the growing HBO Max part of the business without exposure to cable. So what do they talk about with cable? They're talking about CNN. Are they also talking about like TBS? Remember TBS?
Probably.
And I guess,
probably, yeah.
I guess Turner Classic Movies, they're trying to dump that too, which is a shame.
No, Turner Classic Movies has gone bad. It's probably for the best.
Okay.
That they would need to, someone needs to turn that around.
They got rid of all the people running it a while back, so it's
maybe, yeah.
This evolution isn't. Look, dude, make an app and put all the classic movies on an app, and even have it running live like it would on cable. I will subscribe to that. I will subscribe to Turner Classics if I can get the same quality that we got on TV. If you charge me a modest fee, because I really like Turner Classic Movies. There was something. It was comfort food that you could watch an old classic Hollywood movie and get away from the junk for a while, but. The evolution isn't a departure from our strategy to employ Max globally, optimize our global networks, and return the studios to industry leadership. It's about unlocking the full potential of two strong businesses. Zaslav told staffers in an internal memo, each has a distinct focus, clear mission, and scale to succeed on its own terms. This is nonsense. I'm sorry. They don't want... They're splitting off because they're trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. Am I wrong here?
I think there's absolute truth to that. That's usually why these kinds of things are done, yes.
Yeah, there's no money in the TV because y'all went to streaming. CNN has been through multiple corporate reconfigurations in recent years. The network's founder, Ted Turner, said in a statement Monday that he wishes all the best for CNN ahead of the next transition. While I haven't been involved with CNN and its operations for more than 2 decades, I continue to hold deep affection for the company, its leadership, and the dedicated employees and staff. Turner, why is he chiming in? Turner said, I have the utmost respect for the important work that CNN does, and I wish them all the best as they navigate this new chapter. Finally, recent announcement of the planned split. I'm sorry, they're trying, where's the debt? That's what I want to know. Where's the debt? Where did the debt end up? Which company did the debt end up in? Because I'm wondering if this is a scam to offload the debt.
I mean, it almost certainly is.
I don't know. I'm just as
I mean, that's why companies usually do this kind of stuff.
Why don't these cable companies sell off their channels and their IPs to other companies that have streaming services? I don't know. Well, here's the problem. What did TBS have? TBS's big thing on cable was the rights to the NBA, right?
Right.
Showing the NBA games, and I think Warner Media lost that. They lost the negotiation on that. Did they go to Amazon? Because I thought Amazon was sniffing around with that. So, and I think that screwed up. They had plans to work with an ESN streaming service with Disney, and that kind of fell apart. I think because of that. And it was, I don't know. They need a win. They had the Minecraft movie this year. I guess that was a win for Warner's, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. Hopefully they can build on that. We'll see.
Mickey 17 was not a win.
No, not at all. See, that's the other thing too. We always tend to look at the wins and go, "Oh, look, they're doing so great," and you forget, yeah, but look at the losses they've taken too. You got to factor those in as well.
A lot's riding on Superman, I think.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Plus
That's why they are very worried, and they should be worried because there's been some questionable steps that I've seen coming out of it. So just my personal take on it.
Let's move to Henry Cavill is back in the news.
Yeah, speaking of
Henry Cavill says he wants to do justice to Warhammer 40K's Amazon series, describing it as a dream come true. In a new interview with Esquire, Cavill opened up about the new position as executive producer on the on the Warhammer franchise. It's different from what I've done before in the sense that I haven't had my hand on the tiller of things before. It's a wonderful doing that. It's a tricky IP and a very complex IP, and that's what I love about it. The challenges that come with putting this on the page in a way that is doing justice to that complexity, that trickiness, and that nuance is a challenge I'm enjoying immensely. It was first announced back in 2022 that Amazon had acquired the rights to Games Workshop's tabletop game with Cavill attached to both lead and executive producer, a role that would see him as bring the grand vision of Warhammer to life across various projects, including possible film and TV shows. Now, I will say this for Henry Cavill, from what I've heard, and I think it's honest, he actually is a fan of Warhammer 40K. He's not one of these people they bring out. He's very fan of these things. No, I think
he's very much the nerd, and I mean that in the most positive of sense.
Yes.
And he has a history of walking away from projects when he knows, this is not that thing. This is not.
They weren't doing right by The Witcher.
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly.
For 30 years, I've dreamt of seeing in a Warhammer universe in live action. After 20 years' experience with the industry, I finally feel that I have the skill set and experience to guide Warhammer Cinematic Universe to life. Cavill wrote on Instagram at the time. So we'll see what happens. I know that some of the problem elements of Amazon seem to have been gotten rid of. We'll see what this holds for the future, but. Since then, we've heard precious little concrete details of Warhammer 40K will make a splash on our screen, save for a brief update with Cavill at the end of 2024, which I believe we covered.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens. You know what? I'll give it a shot. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that this will work out. That's what I'll say.
I'm with you.
Yeah. The NBA went to Amazon and Disney Plus is shut down in India because they lost the rights to show cricket, and I find it amazing that none of the news outlets are actually talking about that. Well, probably because they don't know what cricket is. Yeah. They're probably thinking the insect.
It very much is an important element of the business model, but yeah, outside of that, as far as entertainment here in the States goes, it does fly under the radar.
Yeah, cricket's big in India. Baseball's big in Japan too, which I always thought was interesting. That was something they took from us. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds renewed for 5th and final season at Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I represented it differently in the thumbnail for a specific reason. This is a somewhat, in my opinion, this is a somewhat misleading title. Okay. My understanding is that they're trying to get you to focus on it has been renewed for a 5th season, but they're trying to bury the lead of final season. I believe that they were already contracted for 5 seasons up front. So when they did 5 seasons, that's not even news. That should not even make anyone blink. But the fact that it's the final season means, we're not continuing with this. We're doing what we have to do, and that's it. And it's not even a big season. We're only getting how many episodes here? It's not what you think of as a season. It's again, let's just finish out our obligation here.
Please they're still doing that Starfleet Academy series. I want these to stop. I want them to stop. I want them to put the brakes on this stuff.
Well,
alone for a while.
And I've been saying this, and it's no less true now than it was, that the only way it's going to stop is they've got to get rid of Kurtzman. And the way they get rid of Kurtzman is to get the deal through, and Skydance says, okay, that's it. Enough. Goodbye. Now,
And all future Star Trek can't have this stuff canon because we don't have the rights. Throw me into the briar patch. I'm just saying, just get rid
exactly. If they end their relationship with Kurtzman, the upside to that is it decanonizes everything that's got Kurtzman on it. That may be unfortunate for those of you that like the third season of Picard, okay, and are trying to ascribe canon to anything that's come since then. But for most Star Trek fans, that's a good thing.
Can't we just move on and have a Star Trek series with, I don't know, a little ship called the Starship Enterprise, and just bring not Strange New Worlds, like further in the future, like maybe 100 or 200 years after TNG, and just move forward.
I wouldn't even.
Finally,
I would not.
Timeline.
I would not even go that far into the future.
Like 50 years, 100 years?
No, I wouldn't even go that far. I would back up and
I don't have to worry about having to use TNG cast on this.
You don't have to. You don't even have to set it on the Enterprise. It could be another ship.
No, I want the Enterprise. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Well, then you may as well throw out Voyager and Deep Space Nine.
No, I'm not throwing out these shows.
I'm just saying that there is Star Trek to be told that is not just the Enterprise.
I'm saying at this point, I feel it's time for the Enterprise to return. We haven't had a Star Trek show with the Enterprise. I mean,
I get what you're saying, but at the same time, if you want to get back on track, you know what you could do? Okay, actually, you make a great point. You could make it.
The idea of the Federation people being stuck with the Klingons because they had to. It was like a team up with the Klingons because they had to do something in Klingon space and doing a series about Federation.
If you want a successful Star Trek, it's gotta have the Klingons. It's not just my personal bias. The Klingons are the most popular race outside of the humans in Star Trek. You really need to use them and do them justice.
They're more popular than the Vulcans. Let's be honest here.
You know what? You're absolutely right. You could actually do what Star Trek Online has done. You bring out the next, the post what's the next? What is it? E or F or whatever?
You put someone new era. That's what I want.
I'm getting to that. If you let me finish my sentence.
Nobody A, B, C, or D.
It's either E or F. I don't know where they're at right now. You give it to another captain, not Picard, not Riker, but I don't know. In Star Trek Online, it's a descendant of the Andorian from Enterprise. So Sean or Captain Sean or whatever.
With that. I think having an Andorian.
And in so doing that, by doing that, you give them the opportunity to have storylines that are very much in that same old formula. New life, new civilizations. Establishing what the politics of the world is now, how they're relating to the Romulans and the Klingons in the post-Nemesis era, and so forth. And you get just lines here and there that tell you what happened to your favorite characters. You don't have to bring them back. You just mention them and say, the Enterprise, the chief engineer of the previous Enterprise, a guy named LaForge, he's now teaching at the academy or something like that, or he's gone off to the Corps of Engineers or whatever, and he's working with his wife Leia Brom or whatever, whatever.
No, that's fine. I don't want more. I don't, and this is a family show. Do I need to reiterate this to the producers? I don't need to have people's eyes getting ripped out of their sockets and then getting mercy killed by 7 of 9.
And at the risk of sounding like a hypocrite, maybe cut it with the F-bombs. Just say
make it a family show again.
Right.
TV was considered a family show. It's a show the whole family could watch, and they need to do that again.
Yes, they do. You're absolutely right.
Buried a hologram. Hey, don't judge. Don't judge. That sounds like something they'd have on that Lower Deck show. That some guy married to a hologram and him fighting for the right to marry.
It's funny because before we started getting into all of this AI stuff, they were already dealing with that stuff on Star Trek. Barclay got addicted to the holodeck, and then of course you bring up the holographic doctor creating an artificial family for himself and whatnot.
I want to
Yeah.
know what the new power structures are, and maybe look to the way the world is now, and look at how power structures exist now,
Right.
the world as an influence. Anyway,
It is still possible to do topical stories, Paramount. Just saying, without the schlock that we've been getting.
would it be kind of funny if there was an equivalent to the European Union on the new Star Trek, like maybe the Romulans and the Cardassians are now teamed up with their own, not like the
I
Federation,
don't
but
know.
like their own organization or something. Not the Dominion. You don't bring the Dominion back because they're done.
You'd almost, what would be interesting is if it was like the Ferengi was the commerce of this new
Yes.
union, and it was
Yes.
and
Yeah, the
maybe the Romulans
too. That's right. Yeah,
actually, you're absolutely right. Ferengi and Romulan, absolutely. But
Ferengi.
then you start bringing in some other races that just chose not to join the Federation.
yes,
Yeah.
because that's the idea. Like almost like a alternative Federation. Like I wouldn't necessarily call them evil, but like they're more like a foil for the Federation. Anyway,
Right.
We're you know what? This might be a Friday stream topic.
I know, maybe. Yeah.
All right, but what am I talking about? Yeah, but anyway, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. We need 5th and final season. I can't do it. I saw that clip of them taking that DNA exchanger, turning everyone Vulcan, and now they're all acting logical. And I just kept saying,
Yeah.
You guys.
This is a lack of understanding of real science. It's a lack of understanding of the canon of Star Trek. It's a lack of understanding of storytelling in general. And I want to say hi to Roman of the Empire. So good to see you, my friend. Yes, moral stories without beating us in the face. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah, bring us back, and you can go back to that format. I mean, you're not even constrained by time anymore because now most of these shows are on streaming services anyway. Just make it.
I know.
What was I going to say though? But yeah, I don't know. I'm just done. The whole thing. All I know, and I know how to save Doctor Who, but I might come on with you guys and talk about it. That might be interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Doctor Who. Oh boy. See, Star Trek, I feel, isn't in a mess because all you have to do is throw out the Abrams stuff and you can start fresh. I think that's what it is.
And
you could say that's an alternative timeline.
Well, the Abrams stuff is the easiest because they've already established Kelvin timeline, and if they don't do anything with the Kelvin timeline ever again, then no harm, no foul. It's the Kurtzman stuff where you really start to blur the line. But from a legal standpoint, there is no blurred line. It's very simple.
Well, here's the confusing thing about Star Trek Picard, because Romulus does get destroyed in Star Trek Picard, and it did happen in the Star Trek reboot movie with Abrams. Romulus got destroyed in the future, so I was wondering, is that universe? So is that Prime? But then,
so this is where you start getting into the question of the destruction of Romulus. You're right. That does go to the Abrams verse. Are they going to accept that as canon? And that therein lies where is their deal with J.J. Abrams? Because could you just like if you use a character from Next Generation, you have to pay the writer who came up with that character, and they ran afoul of that during the Kurtzman era, where they used stuff from the Next Gen and tried not to pay these people, and they got sued, and it happened more than once. Okay, so if they decide they want to do something with the fact that Romulus got blown up, yeah, maybe they do have to pay something out to J.J. Abrams. But that's not the same as recontracting with him. You're just paying him a licensing fee for a plot point that you are using in that episode or movie or whatever. So that's very different than predicating everything on a major plot from the Kurtzman era, which would mean having to continue the Kurtzman. They're not going to do that. So
I want everyone to know here that I, believe it or not, I did give the Kurtzman era a chance, a serious
I kind of did too, yeah.
I watched all of season 1 Discovery. There were problems with it, but there were things I thought were interesting. I know they got rid of that one writer. What was his last name? Mosley. They got rid of him. He was probably one of the better writers on there.
Right. That was That's where it starts going downhill even faster. Yeah.
Picard was a disaster from the get-go.
Yeah.
Which was a pity because I actually liked the actors they had on there and even some of their characters, and I argued I would have liked to have seen them on a normal Star Trek show where their lives hadn't been destroyed. If they had just been like normal members of a crew.
Right.
But anyway.
And again, a lot of great things happen in season 3 of Picard, but unfortunately, it's all tainted by everything that's around it and by the contracts of Kurtzman. So it's all very, very unfortunate.
Where are we at? Oh, yikes. Speaking of unfortunate, regardless of where we are on this.
Yeah.
Not a really good pivot, but Jared Leto is apparently being, I guess the expression is Me Too'd, or
yeah, I guess that's the only way you can. Yeah.
Jared Leto denies report of inappropriate sexual conduct allegations by 9 women. 9 women have accused Leto of inappropriate conduct in an expose published by Airmail, including a strong denial from unnamed representatives for the actor and 30 Seconds to Mars frontman. Some of the women noted in the Graydon Carter-backed weekly newsletter Saturday Report that they were underage when the actor allegedly engaged in sexually charged conversations or made forceful advances on them. U.S.-based spokespeople for Leto did not immediately return messages seeking comment. Rumors about Leto's behavior toward young and underage women go back to at least 2005 when the New York Post published a story that began, Jared Leto likes them young. The actor was allegedly caught hitting on teen models staying at the Maritime Hotel. One woman, Cleverino, spoke to said Leto asked for her number when she was 16. He called her days later. I don't know if he was on drugs or what. It was the weirdest, grossest voice, but for me, it's Jared, you know? And the conversation turned sexual. He'd ask things like, have you ever had a boyfriend? Have you ever? And then expletives. Model Laura LaRue also said she had similar experience with Leto when she was 16. He asked how old I was. I said, I'm 16. How old are you? She explained. Leto was then 36. Again, I don't know. I guess this stuff will be.
Yeah, it sounds bad. Again, I live and die by the proposition that you are innocent until proven guilty. This stuff is going to have to go to court. But what we can speak to is, and this is how we come at it. We're less concerned about people's private lives and what's going on in civil court, so much as how those aspects impact the entertainment industry.
Because he has a big movie coming out in the fall.
This is going to have huge impacts on Tron Ares. Yes,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because what does Disney do now? They can't like reshoot it with a different actor. I know companies did do that in the past. Maybe they'll try doing that. I don't know, or maybe they'll hope this blows over. Because what do you do?
Well, here's the first thing they have to do.
The movie might be fine, but maybe it'll fail for other reasons now because of this.
Well, it all depends on how Disney manages it, right? And they've got to not make the same mistakes they have made in the past. And they should be decisive about it. This is my personal opinion. I don't know for sure what I would do if it was my company or I was in charge of a company. But we already saw them completely F this up twice. Well, no, wait a minute. It wasn't Disney the other time. But in terms of Johnny Depp, the way they handled Johnny Depp.
That was Warner Brothers, yeah.
Well, no, because it was also Pirates of the Caribbean, which is Disney.
Well, the case with that, though, was they just didn't make another movie. In the case of Warner Media, though, he was poised to be the head villain in...
But the problem with that is the perception, the lack of decisiveness. By appearing to be mealy about it, it allowed them to look like, oh, they're not doing this because they're taking a side. And that perception, remember, perception is reality when it comes to... When it comes to situations like this, they've got to, in this kind of a situation, they've already filmed the movie. They cannot afford to back out of it. They've got to say, look, we've got contracts. We are obligated to put this movie out. We hope you enjoy it. We hope you don't judge until the evidence comes out. And if the evidence comes out, we won't be working with this person going forward. But until that time,
yes,
You know, we have legal obligations and a business relationship that we must honor. If you say that out front, I think people tend to respect it. There are going to always be the radicals that are, you know, they assume the worst and expect you to you know, castigate without proof, but that's not how the world works.
I don't think Disney's going to do anything. I think they'll just release it and see what happens. That's probably what's going to happen, unless these allegations get worse as time goes on. But I think they're just going to have to suck it up and release it and see how it does.
Interestingly, it shouldn't matter if the allegations get worse. I don't care how bad the allegations get. Doesn't matter until the proof comes out.
Yeah, I mean, are there going to be court proceedings on this stuff? That's my point, and that happens. That could be years off anyway. I mean, what exactly are they saying?
Well, an allegation has been met.
I mean, did
an allegation has been made publicly.
Yes.
About things that constitute a crime. So it may be out of their hands at this point. It may have to go to court.
Oh. Geek Flag says, well, maybe I'm wrong. He says that another Pirates movie was in development until the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp stuff happened. Okay.
Well, this is what we were kind of alluding to there, Nate. That was the talk. Now, again, all of that is always rumor. Until they actually start filming, it's not happening.
Yeah, but it made sense they would do another one, though. So
yes, it does, and it makes sense. But see, that's what makes rumors so insidious. The rumors sound plausible, and people believe them as fact, and that is very dangerous.
I wanted my Jack Sparrow goes through a time warp in modern times. I wanted to see that happen. Maybe that would have been terrible.
That would have been, you know what, though? That would be the kind of thing that would make for a great... It would make for a great short to be played before a feature of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Like,
you
he's
know?
in modern, so what does he do?
Right. I would dig that, sure.
I like the last one where the young heroine in the movie goes, my mother, she was a horologist. And then the pirates say, oh, don't worry about it, man. We can't help who we were born to. And it's like, because they didn't understand what
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to David Lynch. Is this Sparkwood in 21? What's going on here?
This, you know, I obviously I am a huge David Lynch fan. That's why I follow all this. I follow Cameron, Obnoxious and Anonymous on the various social medias. And that's how, you know, I see this kind of stuff, share it with you, and deleted scenes behind the scenes. And I did feel like this was the kind of thing that if you guys are following us, you very possibly are also following Live from Sparkwood in 21. And so this might be of interest to you. Remember, Live from Sparkwood in 21, every Tuesday at 7:30 sharp, not later than that, deleted scenes. We need to get started on time, especially this week. Okay, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Deleted Scenes channel. As we dig into the mystique of Twin Peaks, and you can't do that without really looking at, you know, David Lynch in general. I love the fact that we have the parquet pattern on a Formica table. Those of you that are Twin Peaks fans know what those allude to.
35 years ago, the question of who murdered doomed prom queen Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks was on everybody's lips. Even Queen Elizabeth II cut short a private audience with a Beatle at Buckingham Palace.
I've heard this story, yeah.
To avoid missing the cult TV phenomenon, Paul McCartney told us he had been invited to perform music to celebrate the Queen's birthday, and she had to rush upstairs to see who killed Laura Palmer. Remembers Mark Frost, who created the show with visionary David Lynch. And I imagine that Paul McCartney overheard this. Oh, no, that's tonight? And ran up
yeah, exactly. I hadn't heard that of it, but I can imagine that. Sure.
When Hill Street Blues writer Frost teamed up with Lynch, they shifted small screens Overton windows. Forever, injecting surrealism and art house style into the mainstream. Fish in the damn fine coffee percolator. Backwards talking dreamlike sequence, log carrying oracles. Twin Peaks spanning 2 decades, and a 1992 prequel movie, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, was compulsively Weird and acted as a blueprint for future prestige drama such as Lost and Stranger Things. 2016, Frost and Lynch reunited with Showtime's uncompromising third lap, aka Twin Peaks: The Return, never described as pure heroin vision of David Lynch's. So this was an interview with Mark Frost. I'll just read a little bit from it, though. Hello, Mark.
I do want to preface this with, he does get into a little bit of the political, which really aggravates me. I've got some things to say about that. I will try not to get too off tangent on that.
All right. Well, Mark, Twin Peaks was so radically different in 1990 to the point where even the cast and ABC network executives were unsure of how it would be received. Did David Lynch and yourself trust the audience would understand it? Mark Frost says, we trusted the process. We sat down and wrote the pilot in 3 weeks. It came out in a burst. We'd written it together for a couple of years up to that point. We knew when, as David was fond of saying, you got a big one on the line. Then it was just about, can we realize it and navigate the tricky political circumstances of network television and its limitations at the time. I knew a lot of those limitations, but I felt I had a blueprint for how to crack the safe. Next question is, rewatching the pilot, it's full of raw grief. Does it hit differently for you following David Lynch's death? Well, I haven't watched it since he left us, and honestly, I don't watch the show very often. I mean, David and I talked a lot about issues like this. When you're working that closely together for that length of time, we knew each other, you get to know another person pretty well. I'm confident to say I don't think he had any fear of death whatsoever, and I think he's doing just fine wherever we may be. What are your favorite memories working with David Lynch? I remember the laughter. We just cracked each other up. Writing is a hard, solitary experience 99% of the time. And, but this was different. This was two people in a room playing tennis. We'd found somebody who could return serve, and we could get along volleys going. I don't want to torture the metaphor, and we had a hell of a good time doing it. We enjoyed each other's company. When you work like that, the conversation tends to be wide-ranging and involves what's going on in your life and what you think about contemporary issues and external issues. All those things are in the hopper. So let me see. What made him so special? He was fearlessly creative.
Real quick, let's say goodnight to USRNG, who's heading out. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, it's getting late. We'll try to be wrapping up ourselves soon. Yep. But he was fiercely creative in the face of everything that came his way, and he was eternally challenging himself to meet that moment and do something more than he had before. It was an ethos and a way of living. He was an artist first, last and foremost. It was a pleasure to be in his company, to be his friend, and work together as closely as we did. When did you last talk to him? A couple months before he left us, we talked about his diagnosis of emphysema, what he was facing, and how resolute he was that he wasn't going to diminish his creativity or prevent him from expressing himself. I thought that was very in character. We were friends till the end, and he went on the way he wanted to go. You got to tip your hat to him for that. Right. Lynch implied that he was interested in expanding the world of Twin Peaks via waitress Carrie Page. Were you talking about continuing the series? A little bit. We had a little bit of recipe forming, nothing terribly formal, but it was in the wind. I can tell. I felt there were uncertainties about his health, so I didn't press him on it. But nothing really stopped the flow of his creativity. I'm kind of the same way. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So is this confirmation?
I don't think so. I think at the most, he's saying he's open to something, but it's too soon to say. That's how I interpret that.
But yeah, he said, can anything about those Senate plans might involve? Is something that's still happening? I mean, I honestly don't know yet. It's still kind of too soon, but it's something I'll get around thinking about long and hard. Yeah, I know. Okay. But by the end of Twin Peaks, at least it bowed out with the return, which was unsparing in its vision. You even turned David Bowie's character into a kettle. We were talking to David Bowie about coming back, and he wanted to do it. He obviously was battling serious health issues, liver cancer, and at a certain point, he called us and said, "I'm not going to be able to do it." We really had a long and hard about that, and David Lynch tried to and did come up with a startling visual representation of what that might be, and the only way he could. And I think David Bowie would have probably gotten a kick out of it had he been around to see it. I certainly did. And David Lynch's speech to FBI director Gordon Cole was accepting trans character Denise. Became a social media rallying cry for the climate of rising transphobia. How they feel. The line "fix their hearts or die" became popular, and I couldn't have been happier because Denise was one of the first trans characters on network television.
I wanna. This is where I do have to interject. This is a misunderstanding of what that community always used to be. There was a difference between people that really were trans and men who dressed as women. We used to call them transvestites, cross-dressers, whatever you want to call them.
Ed Wood.
Yeah. That didn't even necessarily mean that they were gay. It just, that was their enjoyed preference, whatever you want to call it. That is not the same thing. Now, yes, this is your character. You could evolve it however you want, but that's not how you presented it back in the 90s. Back in the 90s, he was a man. He even said, what did he say? I put my pantyhose on one leg at a time, just like everybody. You know what I mean? No, I don't know what you mean. It was very clear this wasn't a trans person. This was someone who dressed as a woman.
He said he made a comment about I think Audrey Horne or somebody. He said, I still put my pants on one leg at a time, if you know what I mean, or something. He was making
and this is again somebody made, I don't remember who the YouTuber was. It was a great comment that I never really thought about before. So simple, and I never thought of it myself. The more inclusionary you try to be, the more exclusionary you become. So by making this all about trans people, you have excluded the community you were originally focusing on, and that was the cross-dressing community. They deserve representation, don't they? You gave them representation, you've taken it away now. But
like J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah. I could go on about J. Edgar Hoover for a whole different reasons, but that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on.
So the core of Twin Peaks is the sexual exploitation of young girls by an entire community. Given the headlines we've seen over the past few years about the likes of Jeffrey Epstein, does it seem more timely than ever? It does. Remember, that all came together at the tail end of President Ronald Reagan era in the country, where there was this willful blinding to the underlying ugliness to a lot of, I guess, capitalism and sexual politics.
I don't see how you got to find your way to get into capitalism. That has nothing to do with it. I was with you on your point about sexualization, and then you have to go off on a different tangent to pull something else in that has nothing to do with it.
Because I'm sure in the Soviet Union this stuff didn't happen, right?
Right, exactly.
But it was bubbling up under the surface. That's the sort of thing a writer tries to stay attuned to. And what we want to capture, there was something rotten in the state of Denmark, even more 25 years, as we've seen. We're still not sure who was at that island. In an age of revivals, Kyle MacLachlan, Agent Dale Cooper, said he doesn't think anyone could tempt a crazy reboot of Twin Peaks with younger Hollywood stars. What are your thoughts? No one's come to me about it, and we own the property. Part of our strategy going was in this world we had created and owned, so nobody would exploit it in a destructive or stupid ways. We wanted to stay true to what we've done, and what we will certainly be my guiding principle going forward with whatever happens with the show or where it goes from here. We've set the standard that we have to hold ourselves to.
This does take me into a little bit of speculation. It has to be speculation. We don't know anything specifically about rights related to this and stuff. My concern was at the time, and kind of still is, how much does Showtime have their fingers in this? Given what he just said, it sounds like they've taken steps to protect it and so forth.
Okay, that's good.
But I'm still concerned, so I don't know. I don't know. Only time will tell, right?
Leland confesses ultimately dies in a jail cell. Norris powerful scene. Okay, where the two raptor. Okay. The episode will wrap things up, season 2, where they catch the killer. Leland confesses and ultimately dies in the jail, so it's an enormously powerful scene. Another one was a more personal to me, which was the first scene we shot in The Return. It was filmed a year before we started production. My dad played Doc Hayward on the show, and that was based on his own father-in-law. Dad was just entering the final stages of his life, battling the onset of dementia. I said, we need to write a scene for him. I'm going to have to be like a Zoom call. We came up with a way of doing it at my family's place in upstate New York, where my parents had been married. My dad and mom were there, along with my brother, Scott Frost, who'd worked on the show. My son, who was 12 at the time, was holding the cue cards for my dad. That was when he was talking about catching the fish, right?
Yep. Yep.
And they had to do it then, or they wouldn't have been able to do it. David got on Skype with him, and they shot it together. It was virtually the last scene he ever acted in. Incredibly meaningful. I felt it was written a scene that was up to the task. It was a moment I'll never let go of. Well, I'm glad they got that shot before.
And I love stories like that. This was one of the biggest things about The Return. I don't think we really mentioned it as we were going through our narrative on that, but I do feel like for all of the looking into the lore and all of that kind of stuff, that's ingenious. Thank you. For all of the looking into the lore that we do, we also have to understand the limitations of their filming. The whole tea kettle, David Bowie thing and whatnot. You look at that, you kind of chuckle. I tend not to read too much into it. I understand what they were trying to do because they were working around the loss of David Bowie, right? The limitations of Kathleen Coulson, right? And this one is another great example. The way the characters went had to be dictated by the ability to film with the actors, and I just think they did it beautifully, and I'm just good with all of it.
Yeah. So, more Lynch news, and deleted scene says, "Do not to worry. The stream will be at its usual time this week."
Thank you very much, Deleted. I will be ready to go as long as you are at exactly 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern on Tuesday for Live from Sparkwood and 21.
So, more James Bond news.
Yeah. This one, after the more recent article we were talking about, I found this interesting. Yeah.
James Bond, the Secret Agent Academy. Bond's license to kill has ended. His license to teach has only just begun. Ian Fleming Publications announced a new blockbuster adventure in the James Bond literary franchise. James Bond and the Secret Agent Academy by best-selling crime writer M.W. Craven will kick off an action-packed new series for readers aged 8 to 12. Simon Ward, publishing director, bought UK-BC rights in a 2-book deal from Viola Hayden and Sierra Finnan at Curtis Brown, representing Ian Fleming Publications Limited. James Bond and the Secret Agent Academy will be launched in June 2026 with a dynamic marketing, publicity, and events campaign reaching existing Bond fans and recruiting a new generation of spy thriller readers. The book will be published in paperback, original, ebook, and audio by Ian Fleming Productions, the in-house publishing arm of Ian Fleming, Inc. James Bond, The Secret Agent Academy is the first part of a brand new series taking the world's most beloved secret agent to a place of dread, weirdos, and strange foods, school. A new generation of young heroes, mentored by 007, have entered the Secret Agent Academy to see if they have what it takes to join the ranks of 00s. Together with Bond, they can defeat a deadly foe lurking in the shadows, and more importantly, can they pass their exams? It'd be funny if they did a movie version of this, and it was Pierce Brosnan playing Bond, the Bond teacher.
I mean, if it's a good story, I wouldn't mind seeing that. It does seem it is a YA book, so I never take those things as canon.
It's pre-YA. It's 8 to 12.
Well, okay, yeah, exactly. It's a kid's book.
Hitting on any students, that's good. I'm sorry.
Well, one would hope. I mean, who knows with some of these goofballs these days? But from a marketing standpoint, it makes sense, right? It is. If you're trying to build your franchise, you want to bring the younger audience in, get them interested before, yes, you're absolutely right. James Bond is more for adults, right? Especially you look at some of the storylines back and whatnot. But be that as it may, it's okay to prime the kids to be interested in the characters and then realize, oh, this is a little bit more adult than I realized as they get older. And it's age appropriate for them to partake and so forth.
I just don't know, and I'm going to be kind saying I just don't know. Okay.
Yeah, we'll reserve judgment till we see, but I have plenty of reasons to be very.
Goldfinger Jr., is he going to be out there? I mean, he'll be one of the students.
I'll tell you, if they start going that route and it starts getting schlocky, it's going to be no. Come on, there are some good stories they could tell. And see, the best children's stories we were talking about this, about stories told in the 80s and whatnot. Sometimes you'd had some really dark kids stories that dealt with very strong topics.
Like
and
Pocket of Skulls.
Well, I mean, look at things like The Dark Crystal, Never Ending Story. There's some really heavy duty stuff there. They don't talk down to children. They tell good stories that children may have to wrestle with a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. They could do the same thing here with James. I could see a scenario in the school where Bond is teaching these kids, something comes up, the kind of situation that Bond could very easily solve on his own, but he coaches the kids through it, and by asking them questions, that lead them to an answer,
Oh, I'm trying to make predictions here. He'll have an estranged daughter that hates him or something. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God. Yeah, see, that's what I'm afraid of.
Dad.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Who would the mother be? Pussy Galore? No, they can't have that in a kid's book. Never mind. I'm just. Let's move on to. Nowadays they'll probably make the head nurse. Yeah, that's what I said. There we go. She's a criminal. I think at the end of the book she goes to jail, but Bond still rescues her. I don't know. Let's move on. What are we at here? Okay, our final story of the night. I should have put the pictures of them up here, but I think Troy found them unsettling.
Yes, I was like, is this really something you want to do? Okay, we'll talk about it if you want to.
We're going to be getting. You won't believe how adorable the Friends cast looks as kids. AIs. This is one of these things where I saw notes. Oh crap! Did I submit this for the show? I guess I got to stick with it. You won't believe how adorable the Friends cast looks as kids. AIs reimagining will melt your hearts. I imagine the little Joey says, "How you doing?" Or
yeah, how you doing?
Oh. The show was released in 19. What'd she say?
She just did the voice.
Better might be able to do more justice. I don't know. The show was released in 1994 for 10 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect. That's how it would sound.
And I saw the look. I don't think this is anything we'd even need to play for you. You guys can find it online yourself. You guys have probably seen a lot of memes of them taking. I saw one that was a bunch of different politics. It was like Joe Biden. It was Trump, Elon, some other world leaders, and there is babies sitting around. I don't know if it was a campfire or something like that, telling jokes, and they were like terrible dad jokes, and it was so funny. It's a little bit funnier. Also, it has the glitches of the AI. So like in one scene, the kid's holding a glass and starts to raise it, and you think he's going to dump it over his head, but the glass just disappears because AI,
Yeah, well, it's funny. Well, I mean, I've heard audio versions like we're talking about. Like I heard one of like Obama and Biden and Donald Trump all arguing about what the best Shin Megami Tensei Persona game was. Like the teenagers, it sounded convincing. It was funny.
Yeah.
And of course, I like Trump. He was defending Persona 4, saying, I think he made some point like, he makes that great speech about how the world is shit or something, and like your whole life depends on a little thing called talent. And then Trump says, "And we like that."
And we like that. Yeah, exactly.
That's what the villain says, and I guess in the game. Okay, so anyway, what? Do I need to read the article? You get to see little Rachel, little Monica, and they're all child versions. You get to see Chandler Bing as a child, so Matthew Perry's face on a baby. And you imagine that there would be. I brought this up, I think, because we were talking about Muppet Babies the other. That's one of these streams, and I said, "What about Friends babies, huh?"
And there you go. Yeah,
and Ross
Friends
would still
babies.
be in love with Rachel. Right? It would be like a kid crush or something. Just
my gosh.
Never mind. Anyway, that's it for this evening, folks. Hope you. Wait a minute. Are there more stories?
I don't think so.
How long does this go on for?
I don't know. It's your show.
Why does this say 15? I'm on page 16 to 23, Nostalgic Blend.
I'm on slide 34. I don't know what you're talking
You know
about.
what? It's almost midnight. Let's wrap this shit up. Excuse my language. I always say. There we go, and that's it for Geeky Geezers. What do we have? Did you guys like the show? Anyone who's still here? Oh, but they can have having. You know what's funny? When they did a Bond card set, trading card set, they changed her name to Kitty Galore in the trading card set back in the day.
Oh my god,
this
that's
was a thing in one
terrible.
of the documentaries. But they can. Haven't you heard?
Yeah, I can't even read it. Can't even read it, Curtis. You're a goof. Yeah. So you stay right where you are, and we will send you over to Deleted Scenes channel for his interview with Big Al Presents in 15 minutes.
Get yourself a snack. Maybe relieve yourself in the restroom.
Yep. Let's see. Tomorrow night, members of my channel, hopefully you will join us. I put up a poll. You guys decided. I don't know why. It was such a large majority of you said you wanted to see Escape from LA. Okay. Almost as though it was something topical. But okay, we're going to watch Escape from LA tomorrow.
I love that. I mean, I know everyone screams New York is a better movie, fine, but I like Bruce Campbell in that movie.
Yeah, and given the headlines today, I do think Escape from LA is very appropriate. So, members of the channel, remember you can be a member of my channel for as little as $2 a month. All the other perks that you get for membership, including making it possible for me to even do these shows, you get to join me every Monday for a members stream and watch a movie along with us.
And that's cool 4 movies a month for $2.
No, I had put up the poll, Nate. Some Kind of Wonderful was on the poll, but people overwhelmingly requested Escape from LA. I almost said
good one. Some Kind of Wonderful.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that for another night. There's only so much time on a Monday to do as many.
There was this whole thing about how in some ways, Some Kind of Wonderful and Pretty in Pink have reverse scenarios in them. If you look at it in a certain light, tune in. You get to have Troy will have some insights onto LA, I'm sure, during the stream. So.
I'll try not to get too real worldy with it.
And then what's coming up after that?
Well, then Tuesday, of course, at 7:30 Central, sharp. That's 8:30 Eastern. We will be live from Sparkwood 21. We will be watching, not doing too much of a deep dive on, but we will be watching Mulholland Drive. Next week, we will get into the deep dive on that. So we're kind of splitting that up. So starting very promptly at 7:30, it's the only way that we will be able to finish up and then be able to get over to my channel at 10 Central, 11 Eastern for the next episode of Blake 7, Children of Auron. So those of you that are big Cali fans, it's a Cali-centric episode. Those of you that aren't Cali fans, well, Servalan's in it. So what?
I don't like Servalan.
Well, no, I know. I'm saying that more for Marc Malnekoff, who might watch on the rewatch. Thursday, Netter and I will be over on Netter's Network for Thursday Things. We may or may not have a guest.
I'm still waiting to hear back.
Okay, fair enough. But join us on Netter's channel at 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Thursday. And then followed immediately after on Deleted Scenes channel for his coming attractions to tell you everything he's got coming out throughout the week, because that's too long for me to list right now. Friday, we haven't really decided on a topic yet, have we, Boomer?
No, but I can talk to you after the stream real quick. I had some ideas, like we have a couple things in the burner, so it'll be good.
Okay, that sounds good. But I also know that there's going to be a very special Films with Friends on Friday that Netter and I have been invited to. Can't promise we're going to make it there, but we're going to try to, because it's the anniversary of a certain shark movie. Yes, Sharknado was released. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It has nothing to do with Sharknado. Yeah, they're going to be watching Jaws, and I think we're going to need a bigger YouTube station. But that's going to be Deleted Scenes, Big Al Presents, and hopefully, if at all possible, Netter and myself, and maybe another special guest that you guys may not have seen in a while. Kind of miss him, and I'm hoping he can make it on Friday as well. And that brings us around to Saturday, where Retro Cinema on Netter's network, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on Netter's channel. What are we watching?
The Freshman.
The Freshman. Yeah, this is I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of a parody of The Godfather, but it's got that 80s charm. Matthew Broderick, Marlon Brando. I love this movie.
That's the one with the kimono dragon in it?
Yes! Yes, it is!
That movie, yes.
Don't say any more about it. No
I'm not gonna say anything
spoilers.
else. Okay.
This is a good movie. Looking forward to it. See ya for that. And then that, of course, brings us around to next week for the next installment of Geeky Geezers. I did leave out, of course, every noontime Central, 1 Eastern. I do have Liquid Lunch here. Different topic every day. Hope to see you whenever you can make it. Make sure you have that notification bell.
You should talk about what you
so
found
you
in your refrigerator cleaning for one of the liquid lunches.
Yeah, that should. If you're on a diet, that might help you lose your appetite. So there you go.
All right.
There we go.
All right, cool.
Anyway, and that's all I got.
All right. Well, I'm going to say good night to y'all. You have a good week, and stay tuned for Deleted Scenes reserve seats. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.